Hey guys, it's Gala Avery from the Video Archives podcast. While we're shuffling tapes and gearing up for season 2, Quentin and Roger have sent me on a mission all around Los Angeles and beyond to talk with filmmakers, photographers, VHS collectors, and other interesting characters. What are we going to be talking about? Well, that's up for my guests to decide. On the Gala show, guests have 30 minutes to talk about whatever topic they want you to know about. Filmmakers like Josh Miller will tell us how he found his tribe, while writers like Larry Karaszewski will let you know what he considers to be a true LA movie. VHS collectors like Connor Holt make an argument for the genre of pirate movies, while writers like Josh Olson are going to let us in on what he considers to be right-wing cinema. Actors like Percy Hines White will share his love of outsider art, while animators and cartoonist Sierra Nielli will reminisce on his experiences of growing up in a Philly pizza shop and how this time in his life influenced him to pick up a pencil. So, join me every Thursday for a new guest with an entirely new topic. The Gala show premieres October 26th, available wherever you get your podcasts. On this episode of the Video Archives podcast, we're back with part 2 of American Giallo. Quentin Tarantino, Roger Avery, and Eli Roth continue on in their debate of exactly what constitutes this genre, seeing if any of our 4 films fit the bill. We'll start off the episode with one of Eli Roth's favorite films. 1976's Alice, Sweet Alice is destined to give you a fright. When Alice's sister Karen is found brutally murdered in a church, suspicions turn towards Alice. But could a 12-year-old girl really be the killer? The group talks about the role that religion plays in Giallo, how director Alfred Sole pulled off a period piece on a budget, and how the identity of the villain is just too good to spoil. And wrapping it up, let's all sing Happy Birthday to Me. Virginia is about to celebrate her 18th birthday, but before she can throw her party, her friends are murdered off one by one. Directed by J. Lee Thompson, this film features amazing gags, unique kills, and one of the most gut-wrenching brain surgery scenes you'll ever see. So make sure to RSVP. It'll be a killer party. I'm Gala Avery, and let's jump right back into the conversation.
Okay, so now, let's move on to Alice, Sweet Alice.
Oh, I love this movie.
Okay, so now, when I was bringing up the idea of doing an American Giallo show, this was Eli's suggestion. He was like, oh, you got to add Alice, Sweet Alice. It's completely an American Giallo. Now, I have not seen Alice, Sweet Alice since it came out, all right, in
76.
Yeah.
Well, I
had never seen it.
It didn't come out in Los Angeles in 76. It didn't come out until after Brooke Shields' fame, and it was released as Alice, Sweet Alice. So it came out either towards the end of 78 or the beginning of 79. It was much better and more impressive than I expected it to be, but I didn't necessarily like it. But then as time has gone on, its reputation and what Alfred Sole did has really kind of stayed in my mind. I was really looking forward for an excuse to watch it again. And this was my excuse. So I had a very interesting take on the whole thing. I'm looking forward to talk about that. But Eli, why don't you read the back of the box?
Gladly. We are looking at an alpha video copy, which has the
one of the lightest cassettes of all time.
If I let it go, it will blow up in the air.
Yeah, it's like, okay, like normally we try to, there's such a thing as 6-hour mode. Like this tape looks like it's recorded in 8-hour mode.
Yeah. Which means it would use less tape, which means it would be lighter.
We never fixed the tracking right. Yeah. Okay, there always was a little bit of tracking static going on, and there was a constant buzz from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, as if it had taped over something else.
This tape is like, it's like we're watching as if we were underwater.
Yeah.
With no goggles. So Alice, Sweet Alice.
Which just shows how good it was, because it grabbed us anyway.
It.
Yeah.
So
and the movie looks beautiful.
Even on the 10th generation.
Yeah, even on this 8-hour mode.
Alice, Sweet Alice, it's got the classic artwork from the poster, if you know it, which is a doll with a bloody butcher knife, and the blood drips into the bloody letters, Alice, Sweet Alice.
Which is like dripping down onto Brooke Shields' name almost.
And then it says starring Brooke Shields, who's in it for 10 minutes. And then Alice, Sweet Alice on the back.
Not only that, she's on the spine.
Well, of course she is.
On the side,
but I mean, it's just like Brooke Shields.
Pictures.
What, is Linda Miller going to be on the side? Of course it's going to be Brooke Shields.
Mystery, suspense, and terror. Everything you ever wanted in a horror movie. Paterson, New Jersey is the setting. A local family has 2 daughters. Karen is the good girl, and Alice is jealous and vengeful. Karen disappears from her first communion ceremony and is later found brutally murdered in the rear of the church. Is it really possible that her own sister could have done it? Her mother says no. Her aunt says yes. Someone is attacking the people in Alice's building. learn the truth about Alice and the terror surrounding her as this horror unfolds.
That's a pretty good description for the back of the box. I mean,
I go see
oftentimes I have to horn in and actually give a better description. That actually just does a really good job without spoiling shit.
If you survive the night, nothing will scare you again.
Yes, that's on the front. It's interesting. This movie really, really feels like a Giallo film. From the rainy mood to the girls in the yellow raincoats to the music with kind of the childlike chorus there.
La, 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 la.
Yeah.
It's disconcerting. It has the use of the yellow raincoats and it's very kind of don't look now mood.
Yeah.
And this weird plastic mask that the killer wears.
Which is similar to the plastic mask that the killer in New Year's Evil wears, isn't it?
Yeah, very similar to that. So it's really feels like if you didn't know an American directed this, you could say Alfred Sole directed it, and you'd say this was an Italian who came to make a movie in Patterson.
Is it Alfred Sole or Alfred Sole?
It's Alfred Sole. He's a guy from Patterson, New Jersey. And because it's shot in New Jersey, he has access to some regional actors and some New York actors and New York theater actors.
Well, we talked about that. One of the things that's really strong about the movie is on one hand, it feels like a regional horror film, like a kind of horror film that would be shot in Cleveland or something like that. And you're using Cleveland actors.
Don't go in the basement. Or
However, there is a distinctive New Jersey element. And the only other movie that really has that really distinctive New Jersey element is Don't Go in the House. But the thing is, while they do seem like extremely good regional actors, that's also because he was close enough to New York, all right, to get actual legit New York acting talent, all right, to appear in his film.
There's good performances in this.
But the thing that I think distinguishes this and that really makes it a Giallo is that this Alfred Sole, before he was making movies, went to study architecture. And he made kind of 3 movies and then had such a bad time. He's like, I should have basically just stayed. He's like, I should have stayed in Patterson. He went to Hollywood to try and make movies and it didn't work out. So he directed a lot of television. And then he's like, fuck this. I'm going to be a production designer. He production designed Veronica Mars, but basically the back half of his career was as a production designer.
Wow.
So when you look at the movie, one of the things I didn't realize, it's so moody and it's so beautifully done, but I'm like, wow, the cars are really cool. Look at the wallpaper. It's got the thing the opening of Deep Red has. And this time I realized, I was like, this fucking movie's set in 1961.
Yeah, it's a period piece.
It's a period piece, and it's got Kennedy on the walls. I mean,
that's a big deal for a low-budget movie.
And for a low-budget movie, they really pull it off, and they don't make you feel. It doesn't feel cheap. Like the exteriors, like they're very rainy with all the cars kind of driving through, and the way they pull the costumes and they do things at the priest's house, and it's got the humor with the old Monsignor and the woman taking care of him. He's just like, she's like, he used to be a great man, but he's like, I want my dessert now. It's beautiful. It's moody. The way the murder during the communion, it's very much like Fulci's, Don't Torture a Duckling. Yeah. There's so many great things about the movie, but from the music to the mood.
There is an aspect of this is like a New Jersey version of Don't Torture a Duckling.
It really is. Especially there's a scene where, the girls, the 2 sisters are fighting. The father is gone. She gets the bridal veil and then she's taking the doll and then Brooke Shields runs off into this abandoned warehouse and Alice,
creepy doll.
The girl is a creepy 2-faced doll. Yeah. There's like a doll with 2 heads on it.
A smiley face and a crying face.
Yeah, and she goes and she puts on the mask and scares her, Brooke Shields, and locks her. You're like, it's like a really good kind of fake out stalk and slash that you realize there's something very off with Alice. And then at the communion, when they're waiting and then they do the classic thing where Alice disappears. We don't know where they are. Where is she? And then the murder, the plastic face with someone just strangling her. It's a really, really violent death. And then putting the body inside the bench and lighting it on fire. So the nuns start to smell it while communion, and Alice just wants communion. She can't get it. It's really, really interesting. The religious themes, and you're like, it can't be the priest because this was happening.
Yeah, someone has religious issues who made this movie. Someone has an issue with Catholicism.
Well, they definitely. Also, it's the emphasis on Catholicism that also makes it feel very much like a Giallo. And
yeah.
Because it gives it Italian, like Roman Roman origins. Yeah,
and of course, I personally love it because it has 2 cast members from Bloodsucking Freaks, which is Niles McMaster,
amazing,
who played QB, the quarterback, and Alfonso De Noble. He plays the pedophile in this movie. He was a theater actor. He only did 3 movies. I think the third film was called like Night of the Zombies in 1979. And then at 31, he died, and director Joel Reed of Bloodsucking Freaks, the only backup we have is Joel Reed's word. No one is, because I looked and no one's found the autopsy. Apparently he's so fat he was stuck in a turnstile and the police had to let him out and it made the papers and he was so humiliated he killed himself. Now Joel Reed claims that, so there's no one can verify it. he's really disturbing. He just goes full on creepy.
Oh, I mean,
with this girl, it's like it's very uncomfortable scenes.
He's so legitimately creepy. He's creepier than any K&B creation could ever possibly be. Yet I felt that from the time that I saw him. I mean, there was almost one of the like, is this guy a real guy? Not his personality per se, but just the creepiness that is him.
The grotesqueness of his form.
Yeah. Well, but it's interesting though. It's a weird kind of grotesque. Okay. You can't stop looking at him.
Yeah.
He's mesmerizing to look at. It's not like I can't look away. I can't tear my eyes away.
Because he's doing this very sort of strange performance where he's the character in his own mind has this sort of elegance where he's reclining on a chaise,
like a grand old dam,
stroking a cat, fanning himself, listening to a Victrola.
Yeah.
It's really strange. It's like someone who's, imagining himself like some sort of 1930s theater star. It's really interesting in this creepy tenement. And he's the landlord. And the mothers, they keep sending
kind of
the kids.
Shut in. Yeah. Would you send your kids to here? Take some cake up to the
like he can't
crazy,
even make it down the
freaky
stairs.
guy.
And he tries. He's like, the stores don't deliver. Can you go out? He's some really weird, agoraphobic lunatic.
Yeah.
So the movie's populated with that, and also by really, really strong performances. You really feel for. Linda Miller, the mother who's dealing with
the mother gives a
daughter.
fantastic performance.
Yes.
I mean, really, really terrific.
Yeah. And the aunt is almost like, in Donnie Darko, the woman who wants to shut down Sparkle Motion.
No, the aunt is like a character out of a John Waters movie, or like you said,
Jane Lowry.
Darko.
Jane Lowry played the aunt.
I actually think the best scene in the movie isn't one of the horror scenes, even though it's hard to get more than when the father's attack. All right, that gets pretty amazing. But you don't like the aunt. Whether it's good things or whether it's tragedy, she keeps trying to intrude herself, on her sister and her sister, what's going on with her sister. And so you just don't like her, and she does seem unfair to Alice, whether Alice is the killer or not. If she is the killer, it's probably because this aunt helped push her over the edge.
And she's got this whole Joan Crawford, mommy dearest kind of
yes.
And she's got the Ed Pressman henpecked husband. And she's obviously the loudmouth of the family that like is able to get everybody to do what she wants out of screeching. But then she's attacked by who she and frankly we think is Alice on the stairs. All right, in the little killer garb, the mask and the little yellow raincoat. It might be the most realistic knife attack I've ever seen in a horror film.
Yes.
It's not done in a horror film style.
It's a little sloppy almost.
It's sloppy, but each knife hit finds its place in either her leg or her foot.
And her foot.
And her foot that just really seems like completely disturbing.
She's walking down this tiny stairwell in this tenement, and the killer pops out with white gloves. Not black gloves, the white glove killer in the yellow raincoat with a mask. This butcher knife kind of goes through the banister legs and just starts slashing and gets her at the top of her foot, then gets the shin, and it's like she can't get in.
And then she falls down the stairs and has what I would imagine as realistic a reaction to a knife attack as you're going to see.
Also, the knife only goes so deep. It's like realistically how a knife wouldn't sink all the way to the hilt. It goes, a few inches, an inch or two until it hits maybe some bone or something. And she's stabbing her, and it's like,
and then
she's
screaming enough that the neighbors come out that the killer has to run away, and she tumbles down the stairs and she crawls out.
Oh my God.
And it's perfect. We're recording this in what I think is one of the rainiest days I've seen in Los Angeles in a long time. She comes out into this pouring rainstorm, and the sisters are there. It's torrential and the blood's dripping. She's screaming for help, and then the husband pulls up. It's a really, really fantastic.
Okay, but that's the knife. And I like that scene. But the scene that I think is wow, when this movie really kind of kicked it up to a new level, is the follow-up scene where the aunt, with every right intention possible, thinks that Alice attacked her. But when the cops go to interview the aunt, if she says Alice attacks her, well, Alice is going to be the number one suspect for the cops. So the mother, who's trying to protect Alice, and she's obviously the shrieking violet amongst the two sisters, just turns into a different person and says, I will never forgive you if you blame Alice for this. And then it all kind of comes to a head when the cops and Alice, everybody shows up in the room, and the mother's ferociousness against the sister makes the sister start crying. And this is a character we have not had any sympathy for whatsoever. And we do an emotional switcheroo during the watching of the movie. We see it from the poor attacked aunt's eyes. I don't want to lose you, my sister, but your fucking daughter tried to kill me with a fucking butcher knife.
Yeah.
And she's crying.
And that aunt becomes more unhinged in every single scene, and her face becomes more contorted, and the lipstick almost feels like it becomes more
the juggling,
intense.
the directorial juggling of the high energy of that, theoretically amateur cast, for that scene to get as big and big and big as it gets, and to actually really kind of deliver and actually have us have a different emotional response to it, that scene blew me away. It just blew, the directorial aspect of it and handling all those performances really blew me away.
No, when Linda Miller's saying, you know where she's going, and she's like, and the aunt is just there, and she hasn't said anything, we don't even know if she could speak. Mm-hmm. And the aunt is just sort of turns her face away, and Linda's going, you can't say it was Alice, and just the one tear runs down her eye. Like you just know it's coming.
Even the idea that they've set up that the aunt's husband is this henpecked little guy, all right, that she bosses around, and then in her complete trauma and anxiety, she just starts screaming for her husband.
She wants him.
She's him.
Like, where is he? Yeah.
And then it just actually adds just a level of depth to her character that it's actually touching that the movie offers her.
Well, and then it sets up the device of locking Alice away. You don't want to see Alice get locked up, but then when the killer kills while Alice is in the asylum, it vindicates her. Mm-hmm. And this movie does an interesting thing that not a lot of Giallo movies do, where they solve it about an hour and 20 minutes into it. And maybe they thought the audience was going to figure it out. But it does this thing where it's like, okay, you have the mom goes to the house of the killer for help, and she has to wait around. Mm-hmm. And we reveal who the killer is. So now we know that the mother's at the killer's house. And then you're just like, well, where else and then the movie doesn't end there. And then she leaves. And there is the last 15 minutes. You're like, where the fuck is this movie going?
Yeah, that seemed like a great place to end the movie. Why didn't they end it there?
That's where you're supposed to end it, where your main character is in the house.
And we were all right there. We were all right there in the kitchen.
Bringing her coffee, and she's bringing the knife. And you're just like, what is going on? This can't. And then they don't end it, and it's just a setup for the finale, which I think is so spectacular and really, really pays off.
No, I'm literally thinking for 10 minutes, oh, wow, they messed up.
You're thinking they
missed their subway stop.
They missed it. Yeah, exactly. This movie's going on too long.
And then you realize, no, they're going to that stop. Mm-hmm. And then, they wanted to go there.
And then the ending happens when we know who the killer is, but who gets killed is such a shock. Mm-hmm. And it's so bloody, and it's in the church. And it's just really this literal attack on religion. It's sublime. Mm-hmm. Well, it's such a great finale.
It is. And then it ends with
this track.
Well, the best last shot of the entire quadruple of movies. The last shot is just fantastic.
Yeah, just this moving back dolly shot, just moving through the crowd, the
way it goes, moving back, then on the bag, then on the knife, then on Alice.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie is an indictment of Catholicism.
Which most Italian giallos are. They're not advertising Catholicism.
Fulci made.
This is why we're fucked up.
No, he made Beatrice Cenci and Don't Torture a Duckling, and that's why the critics turned on him.
But more than an attack on Catholicism, more than an attack on that, because that's almost easy. What's hard is the period stuff. I keep thinking about that because, when you're making a movie, the first thing that like the producers would be telling you is, look, all this period stuff, you're going to lose a day.
You have a full communion. You need every extra dressed and made up in hair. Yeah. Everyone has to be 1961.
He must be making a statement about America, not just Catholicism, but about who we are as a country at that time. Mm-hmm.
Well, it was 75 when he shot it. He probably wrote it when Ford was in office.
Right. He doesn't just...
But Kennedy is the president, because we see the Kennedy... But even before
he's talking about a country that is broken, basically, is the point. Mm-hmm. A country that is,
it's symbolized by the family. The father's gone.
Yeah, which is symbolized by the father, being gone. And so what he could have had in shooting time for the cost of doing all of the period stuff... I mean, he had to justify it. He had to really want it. He had to have a meaning to do it. He had to have the need to do it.
But, here's the thing about it, though. As we were watching the movie, I was putting it under the microscope a little bit about why is this so well done compared to other films of its ilk? While Alice Sweet Alice doesn't have any more money or any larger budget than other movies made of its time and of its ilk, I think it's pretty obvious he had more time making it. He had a length to his shooting schedule that is not normal for this type of movie. And you can tell by the unheard of number of setups he does in the course of scenes.
Those church sequences are
magnificent.
But even
magnificently
there's a whole
together.
Little montage of Brooke Shields riding the bike. There's about there's about like 13 or 14 setups or something like that.
Oh, for sure.
But even more than that, it feels like he has time. This does not feel like a rushed production in any way. Not an Elephantine production. It has all the time in the world, and they had too much time. But there's
you can tell
almost part of 70s low budget cinema is the rush aspect is built into its DNA. And when you see a film that's not rushing, you notice it.
Well,
would you agree with that, Eli?
Completely, because what you get are the details, like when the milk bottle drops, the close-up of the milk bottle and the foot stepping on the glass. And she goes, stop stepping on the glass. And they do different angles of it, and the way the sort of rituals. Alice has this weird shrine in her basement with these dolls and the mask and the close-ups and things that, on film take a long...
Alice is a really great character. She really is.
Let's talk about that actress who plays Alice.
Paula E. Shepherd.
Yeah, Paula Shepherd. Like, Brooke Shields probably, 10, 11 when she's in it?
Uh-huh.
Paula Shepherd was 19 when they made that.
Oh, really?
And she plays a really great 13-year-old little girl, because you're thinking, this is one of the best child performance actors.
Yeah.
And the next movie she did was a few years later, was Liquid Sky, and then she was out.
Oh,
she's like
Marek
the drug dealer.
film.
Yeah. It's such a cool performance, and I think that because he's an architect and a production designer, he really has an eye for detail. I didn't see his second film, Tanya's Island, which apparently...
And I've seen the trailer on The Best of Sex and Violence a zillion times.
And apparently it's with Vanity, but apparently Rob Bottin did an amazing gorilla suit. But I did see another film of his, which again plays...
his one studio film.
Which plays with every convention of the slasher genre, which is Pandemonium.
Yeah, which was originally called Thursday the 12th.
And it's a parody of these movies. So he's very, very, very aware of the conventions of the genre.
But the thing is sad is because everyone was talking about what a good job he did directing, that was his studio crossover movie.
Yeah.
Pandemonium. Then Roger Corman releases Saturday the 14th. So now the only reason they made the movie was to make a joke on the title. So then they have to change the title, and then they just released it in a few marks and said, fuck this shit.
Yeah, and that was it.
That was the end, and that was the end of his directorial career. He also suffered the same thing that happened to Tobe Hooper. He was attached to this project and that project, and then things happened that made him drop out just before. Like the way Tobe Hooper almost directed The Dark.
Yeah.
And then got fired. And then he almost directed Venom and he got fired. I remember a lot of different Fangoria and Cinema Fantastique notices that Alfred Sole was going to be directing something or other. And then it turned out he dropped out.
Never happened. And he said, he did television, like you said, the Melrose Place pilot. And then after, he just kind of quit to be a production designer. And he said, it's sad he died in 2022 in February, that he won't hear this. But he said he wished he had stayed in Paterson, New Jersey, making independent films with his friends. He's like, that was when he... was happiest.
Me too.
Now, let me bring up my reaction to the movie when I saw it.
Originally.
Yeah, originally, and then how I feel about it now. Okay, so like I said, I saw Alice, Sweet Alice when it came out. I wasn't expecting it to be very good, but it's definitely an odd duck. It had its own odd quality, and it wasn't bad. I knew it wasn't a bad movie, but I didn't warm up to it. I didn't really like it per se. My biggest problem with Alice, Sweet Alice as a movie is when it comes to tone, the film is perfect. The tone of the film is not only perfect, it's also perfectly unique to the movie itself. The film has bad pacing problems. The movie doesn't flow from one scene to the next scene. It's not herky, it's not jerky, it doesn't jerk from one scene to the next scene, but good scenes don't build on other scenes. There is this sequence is over and then another sequence starts and it takes a little bit to get into it and then it does, but there's not a flow. And I do think one of the things that the film needed was a more pronounced soundtrack. And I think, this is a movie that if it had a Morricone soundtrack.
Or a Pino Donaggio.
Yeah. But especially Morricone, I think. This is the one where I would give it to Morricone.
Morricone, for sure.
A more Italian laid-on soundtrack that deals with the religious themes and deals with the religious choir kind of things. I think it would have actually held the movie together. I think it would have filled in those cracks and filled in those fissures
if you had
air pockets.
Like a Bruno Nicolai harpsichord kind of score.
I'd even go for Nico Fidenco.
Oh, Fidenco?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, Morricone's still the best choice for that.
Morricone, but Bruno Nicolai did the Red Queen kills 7 times and those types of harpsichord kind of sounds. But yeah, Morricone and that early Morricone stuff would have been incredible.
Okay, so, and I do think that would have filled in the gaps.
But also, Niles McMaster is just the weakest actor of the bunch. He looks the part as the dad, but he's the least.
But he's not bad.
He's not bad.
He's not bad.
But he's not as good as the others.
But he's not as good as the father. He's not as good as the priest.
Father Tom.
And he's definitely not as good as. But he's not bad though. I liked him by the end. By the end, I liked him.
He's a little bit movie glue. The guy that's just sort of holding it together. That's kind of clear, and you can see through him. You don't notice.
Well, he
him
looks like a soap opera
it.
actor. As a matter of fact, he reminds you of somebody that would be on Mary Hartman.
Yeah,
but that's a positive thing.
Which he was. But by the way, he was on Edge of Night at the time for a long time. Niles
but
McMaster.
maybe that is
the whole
also,
movie could be taking place in Fernwood.
But maybe that's
it should be.
Maybe this is also another staple of Giallo because we talked about the various men in these movies.
Yeah, George Hilton. He's like the George Hilton character.
How in Dressed to Kill, all of the men in that universe look like they're in soap operas. They all look like the different versions of the same man.
No, they all. It's very funny in Dressed to Kill that Brian De Palma's version of a sexy man, either the museum guy or Angie Dickinson's husband, is all a very much a 1979 Gentleman Quarterly. But there's another aspect. Okay, so why was I almost turned off while appreciating Alice Sweet Alice, where I was invigorated by Deep Red? And I think that there is a reason here. As rough and as violent as the scenes in Alice Sweet Alice are, the murder sequences in Deep Red are more bloody, and they're more graphic, and they're more even grotesque. But they're sexy. There's a sexy quality to the hellacious murders in Deep Red because Dario Argento finds cinematic violence sexy. And there's that almost neon buzz of sexuality running through it that makes it a fetishistic object. The boiling the woman alive in the bathtub being, I think, the main example of that. The main component, along with Marissa Mel's axe murder. Hatchet murder, I guess. Meat cleaver murder is what it looks like. Even calling the Dario Argento murders, but we'll keep it to Deep Red. Even calling them sadistic, using that word, which they are sadistic. That's one of the things I like about, I like sadistic cinema. And one of the things I like about Argento is he's absolutely is coming from a sadistic place. But just even calling it sadistic is to add the sexual element of that I am getting turned on by extreme violence towards this other person. Alice Sweet Alice violence is not sadistic. It is horrifying.
Terrifying.
It's not fun. It wasn't fun when I was a kid watching it. It was really disturbing. And it's still disturbing to this day. There is not the neon buzz of fun and sexuality and cinema even going on during it.
And because you have child murder too, there's maybe that's one of the things that makes it unique, but also why people would not feel good watching it or recommending it. Mm-hmm. Because I agree with you. I think that the murders, until you're in the stairs, that one's fun, and then Niles McMaster when the dad's getting rolled.
Well, I'm saying when the father is attacked, that's an amazing scene. It's not fun,
but the ending.
No, the ending is great. The ending is
every
great.
death. The ending is the only one that feels like it's Deep Red adjacent. But I agree with them. You watch those scenes and you want to stand up and applaud, and your heart's racing. You're like, wow, I've never seen anything like that. And this, you're like legitimately horrified that a child.
But truthfully, though, I actually think the murder of the dad is the best scene in the movie. Yeah. But it's not fun to watch, but it's the best thing in the movie. When he's holding the cross in his mouth. I mean, as bad as everything has been, and it's pretty fucking bad. And then even the whole agonizing aspect of rolling him over to the end to throw him off the building.
While he's semi-conscious.
And he's putting it together. Then he gets the cross in his mouth. She's got to get the cross off, and she can't get his mouth open. And then she just takes her shoe off and beats his fucking teeth in with the heel of her shoe. My God.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, before pushing him off.
Yeah. And then the best shot in the movie. When he lands. It's fantastic. Which I remember, which I had forgotten how impressed I was with that shot when I was a kid until I saw it again. Like, oh, wow.
That shows what a good director Alfred Sole is, because he makes such great use of, in that single angle, that single take, selling the gag of the body falling and hitting and then having the actor roll into the close-up. It's a great gag.
Okay, and I'm going to say something that I haven't said up until now, but since we haven't revealed the killer on this one, let's not reveal the killer on this one.
Okay.
I think that is part of the fun of that movie. We won't reveal it. And I could actually talk about that character a lot, because there's a lot to talk about that character, but let's not on this one.
Another issue is that, in a movie like Dressed to Kill, there's an entry point. For me, as at least as a young male watching the movie, I am Keith Gordon. Yeah. Like, I can transplant myself into that character and view the movie through his eyes and his struggle, and I'm with the movie because of that. In this film, really the only person that I can even hopefully identify with safely is that poor fat girl who's just eating to get through the
Angela,
who's suffering through this family.
Again, that just shows how well drawn this movie is. I actually know Angela's name.
Yeah.
All right.
To me, I'm like, at best, I want to be Angela in this movie, and that's not really somebody I want to be.
I also think that also part of the thing that I was actually confused about when I saw it when it first came out is I didn't think it was a mystery at first. I thought, well, no, obviously Alice is doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's almost in the title.
In the title,
But this movie had a different title originally, didn't it?
Well, yeah, no. When I saw it, it was originally called Communion. Then when it was after Brooke Shields did Pretty Baby, then it was released as Alice, Sweet Alice, pushing the Brooke Shields connection. And then it was released even a third time as Holy Terror. Now, it was actually, before the Alice, Sweet Alice release, it was actually reviewed, Bruce Williamson reviewed it in Playboy under Communion. But by the time, deep into its re-release, when Cinema Fantastique reviewed it under Holy Terror.
So really the movie's largely about the communion itself, and that she can never receive communion. Mm-hmm. She can never take in the body of Christ, which is like the thing that she is like practically killing over.
Oh, by the way, we haven't even talked about the totally grotesque moment when Paula Shepherd tries to get in the communion line and get the communion that Brooke Shields is supposed to get, and she sticks out her tongue, and she basically has a tongue the size of fucking Gene Simmons.
Yeah. Well, she's 19 too.
Yeah.
Well, most 19-year-olds don't have the tongue the size of Gene Simmons.
It's a bit of a lizard tongue. It's impressive.
I got to call out Linda Miller, the mother's wardrobe in the movie.
Oh God, yeah.
Her every wardrobe change is like I love watching wardrobe in movies, and she has great wardrobe changes.
Yeah, well, the one that knocked me out is she's hanging out for like almost like a 15-minute segment of the film, and when she shows up, she's got black capri pants on and a black turtleneck, and her hair is in a Jackie O kind of flip on both sides. And I thought, hey, she's dressed like Laura Petrie. It's got a Laura Petrie outfit on, Dick Van Dyke's wife from the show. But then the more it goes, like, no, that's not a Laura Petrie outfit. She's dressed like Modesty Blaze.
Yeah.
All right. That's a complete Modesty Blaze. That's exactly how Peter O'Donnell has him drawn. And then the fact that it goes on for 15 minutes of her just this regular housewife just looking cool and badass like Modesty Blaze is really is very funny.
Yeah, and with her beautiful angular features, she's great.
But the point is, it's not some weird out of touch thing, because we were both talking, our mothers are of the same era in the 60s, and I've got old photos of her hanging out at family gatherings looking kind of like Modesty Blaze.
Yeah, and I've got pictures
of pants and black turtlenecks.
I've got pictures of my mom when we used to live in Canada, and she'd be out there with like a turtleneck sweater and capri pants like that, and kind of some cool cat eye glasses or something.
Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly. No, that was a great outfit.
And I think that, despite its flaws, it is one of those movies that it's better than you expect it to be.
Yeah.
It's definitely that.
You're like, oh, this will be some slasher film, some cheap thing. You're like, oh, this is exceptionally well made.
No, I think those flaws stop it from actually entering Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, Brood, Rabid category. But it's just slightly underneath, and probably has better production design than and even costume design than the other ones put together.
That's all incremental. Well, maybe not. That's probably a personal taste.
Maybe not Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
but the others. Yeah,
the others. Yeah. Like this is from a double issue 58 and 59 of the Movie Tone News, which is out of from the Seattle Film Society, and it is a fucking rave for Alice Sweet Alice under its title Communion.
Who's the reviewer?
Pierre Greenfield, who after Kathleen Murphy and Richard Jameson, I think is like their big guy.
Yeah, he's one of the head guys there.
I don't know anything about Alfred Sole beyond the fact that he has described himself as a good Catholic boy, and barely a single name on either side of the camera in this extraordinary film of his was familiar to me. But I suspect we'll hear a good deal more of Sole in the future. Communion is a classy chiller on a low budget and a celebration of cinema at its noiriest. The filmmaker Sole most obviously seeks comparison with is that other good Catholic boy named Alfred. But there are several other big names exercising a powerful influence too. The main title comes up over a Bunwellian image of an angelic little girl holding a large cross, which, a deft pullback reveals, is actually a huge phallic knife. An amazingly fat pervert living in grotesque squalor despite possessing wealth could have provided a dandy part for Victor Buono in one of his Robert Aldrich further gross-out Gothic excursions. A child under suspicion of murder undergoes exorcist-style humiliations at the hands of various uncaring adults representing the authorities. Above all, Rogues Don't Look Now is heftily evoked via the presence of a face-unseen killer in a PVC raincoat, yellow this time. The killer wears a face mask, which could be an allusion to any number of movies. The Phantom of the Opera, House of Wax, or even Duffy or Cool Breeze. Hitchcock looms over all these things, though. There is marital bickering filmed through rain-swept car windscreen a la Marnie. There's an agonizingly slow torn curtain death. There's a gruff but polite but terrifying wrong man police detective. There's an I confess priest and a faintly Miss Danvers-like housekeeper fixated on the memory of a dead female, in this case her own daughter, whose place the child at the center of the movie symbolically takes, just as the second Miss De Winter did in Rebecca.
Wow, really drawing those Hitchcock comparisons.
And churchgoers as impotent in the face of sudden crime as those kidnap witnesses in Family Plot. Above all, the surprise, which most filmgoers anticipate will come at the end, comes instead a lot earlier, as in Vertigo, so that the suspense is based on a knowing what's what when no one in the actual movie does. And then there are the psycho references, mainly to do with people getting stabbed, notably on a staircase. These are the most obvious parallels. Just in case we haven't got the reference, Sole, whose movie takes place in 1961, the year after Psycho came out, shows us a poster advertising the film, clearly still packing him in Paterson, New Jersey's Picture Palaces.
Have you ever wondered what the lead singer of Smash Mouth, Zach Goody, feels about new versus old guys in music and cinema? Or how photographer Toasty Cakes makes his cinematic discoveries? What about the opinion of Rotten Tomatoes editor Jacqueline Coley and what she considers to be the new Hollywood shift of the streaming era? Join me, reporter on the beat Gala Avery, as I get to the bottom of these very questions. Starting on October 26th, I have a new guest on the mic every week. Yes, every Thursday, hear your favorite filmmakers, photographers, actors, models, and more talk about a topic that is near and dear to their heart that they want you to know about. You'd be surprised at what people are interested in. The Gala show premieres October 26th with new episodes every Thursday, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, it's Roger, and I'd like to take a break to tell you about a new book I've just read written by my friend and co-host Quentin Tarantino. I'm talking about Cinema Speculation, a milestone book of film criticism that's sure to be placed on the curriculum of every film school or on the bookshelves of self-educated cinema enthusiasts everywhere. Equal parts insightful criticism, autobiographic remembrance, insightful biography, Historical record, cultural observation, investigative speculation, and thematic analysis, Quentin has crafted a unique fusion of forms that seems both obvious and rare. Landmark books like this don't happen with great frequency, and there's a reason. There are very few instances of filmmakers with the wheelhouse of talents that Quentin has to offer to the tome. So let's crack the cover, shall we? Firstly, the book is gorgeous and has a sophisticated cover graphic design of deep orange and a black and white still of Sam Peckinpah and Steve McQueen kneeling in discussion on the set of The Getaway, next to a cryptic element that could almost be missed: Katie's personal box. And is that a gun in Steve McQueen's hand? A Union crew mulls in the background next to HMI lights and C-stands, waiting like soldiers to be called to action. If one photograph could capture the zeitgeist of a book, it would be this one: the elder master and his samurai knight-errant, the embodiment of his internal thoughts, discussions, ideals, and fears, brought to full expression in a cat-like individual with a gun. Katie is nowhere to be seen, but her own box is close and definitely protected. It seems to be labeled on all sides, and she will not be kneeling on one knee like these two men, for she has her own box, and it's personal. This image can be fallen into as if by Stendhal syndrome, and the book is no less transfixing a journey as the heroes, villains, legends, myths, and metaphors that define our culture and that define Quentin Tarantino, the filmmaker, the film critic, the film fan, and the boy discovering film. He, we find in the deep orange field occupying the top half of the cover. Orange is no mistake. It's not just a cool, academic-looking color. It represents enlightenment and quest for understanding. Some might call it Buddhism, some might call it existentialism, but Quentin calls it cinema speculation. And by speculating on the infinite possibilities during the filmmaking process, Quentin explores the various permutations of reality that come together to create a work of cinematic art during peak cinema. Quentin uses his vast knowledge of the industry, the careers, the inspirations, and the temperaments of the Hollywood players of his youth to imagine a kaleidoscope of possible movie permutations and what-if scenarios that results. But this book is more than that. The first chapter is titled Little Q Watching Big Movies. So from page 1, this is an autobiography, a descent into cinema, sometimes a confession, sometimes a realization, sometimes an actualization, but always an exploration. Because soon, as the chapter titles become the titles of films, we find ourselves the ones watching the big movies through Quentin's eyes. What's a big movie? Well, it's a big gesture. Because these films came at the biggest time in film history, when the victors of the rudder of culture were proving themselves and their ideas. So this is how one becomes Quentin Tarantino. It's culture which creates culture, an Ouroboros of creation, a wheel of visual storytelling, the master, the samurai, in the middle of the war to defend culture, the war to defend Katie's personal box. It's an exciting read, with chapters either consumed as individual essays or as an episodic historical analysis. Quentin has been writing this book for years, and occasionally he would read me a concept, a twist, or a perspective I hadn't anticipated from him. And now, to see all these thoughts all pulled together, it's taken a shape that finally allows me to see and understand from a true vantage at a distance. Well done, Quentin. Awesome.
Cinema Speculation by Quentin Tarantino hits shelves November 1st. Get your copy wherever books are sold. Now, back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Gala.
Hey, Quentin. Hey, Roger. Hey, Eli. I'm so glad you guys didn't spoil Alice, Sweet Alice in your discussion. I didn't see it coming. At first, I was like, they revealed the killer way too soon. Like I still have like X amount of time left.
Yeah.
Okay, no, because...
Yeah, then you're in kind of a different movie all of a sudden.
Because the villain is my favorite villain of this episode. Mm-hmm. This is my favorite villain of the episode. I think it's an awesome, crazy villain. So...
Well, the character becomes a character once it's revealed.
Yes. But you can look back and you can see little tiny breadcrumbs of why it's that person, which I think is so great. I agree. This movie definitely feels the most giallo to me out of the four. I wonder if it's because of the religious influences. Also, I mean, all the movies have taken place so far back east. I'm guessing New York,
Jersey,
and then New Jersey. So it's like the Italian influence is especially strong in New Jersey.
So I'm assuming that's maybe why it felt the most giallo to me out of the 4.
Stronger than in Spokane.
Yeah. We don't have a split personality, but we do have sisters. And the doll is a split personality doll with its split face.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we have that split personality.
And you're right, the sisters almost perform the function like in Sisters,
Yeah.
all right, of split personalities.
She was 19 when she played Alice, and the illusion was only broken for me in the scene where she's finally sent away to the institution and she stands up and she's wearing these like jean capris. And I was like, okay, that's not a little kid, that's a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was, and when she's in her dress, she totally looks like a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
Eli, you said it really well. Alice never gets communion. Even in the end, the father just skips over her. That was like so funny to me. I actually burst out laughing because it's the one time she finally thinks she's going to get communion from her father or from the priest.
From the father.
From the father. And she doesn't. Like, okay, why is Alice not getting communion and not getting her... Like, why is the
Why doesn't she get to wear a tiara? Why doesn't she get
all these
anything?
things?
Why do they treat Alice so bad?
Yeah, why? I mean, like, her sister gets the cross.
And the other one
from
gets like
the
a
father.
new plate of food every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because she's like burning dolls in the basement, doing witchcraft. I mean, she's nuts.
But you actually...
There's nothing nuts about witchcraft.
You actually said something, I don't know if you meant to say it, but it's hiding out in the subtextual forest of Alice, Sweet Alice, that maybe one or even both of these daughters could be the daughter of the priest.
Yes, I was thinking that when I was watching it because
Now you're talking.
in my opinion, there's
now you're in Roger
definitely-
Avery territory, Quentin.
There is
Well, no, it's right. It's all right
You're
there.
reading the subtext.
really is.
Well, I don't think it's actually subtext that she once dated the father before he became a priest.
I think
That's
she
in
is-
the text,
No,
I
I think she's actually currently dating the father because her husband's gone with his new family.
Yeah.
Right.
She's with the priest, and the priest even asks the husband, "Oh, are you staying long?" Like he wants to know, like, get out of here. I gotta like get home to my woman.
Well, it's like the way a grown child serves the wife or husband relationship to its mom if they live
Yes.
together. It's a de facto
Well, the fact that
marriage relationship.
is what he's saying that as a nation we've lost our father and we're replacing him with kind of alternate.
She never gets the love from her father. That's what it is.
But you know what?
Actually, I think Alice
No,
does.
I
Actually,
think
the father goes out of his
her dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what I loved about this movie also is that Alice's parents believe her.
Yeah.
That's like one thing you don't always see in horror films. Usually it's like, oh yeah, my weird daughter who's doing witchcraft in the basement, burning up dolls and like, I don't know, putting cockroaches on that fat pedophile who is my landlord. Yeah, she's crazy. No, the mother believes her and her dad believes her. Her dad actually comes home and investigates on her behalf and is her advocate.
But you get the sense when it's like, oh, good thing he arrived on time for the funeral, that this guy's never there. And you don't really know why he left the mother.
Yeah,
or what that was, but you get the sense this guy's not
okay,
involved in their lives.
I don't know about that. I don't know if I agree with that reading because one of the things I actually thought was really, really kind of cool was when the father shows up. You expect there to be all this strum and drama like you always see in a movie of, the divorced couple fighting and pissing with each other like they are in the flashback and Happy Birthday to Me. But that's actually not the case. Well, look, the marriage ended. He got married again to another woman, but there still is this compassion.
Yeah.
There actually is still a love and a compassion for each other, but they need each other because of the Karen's death. That's just not what you see normally in movies.
No, I think it's a great relationship, but you do get the sense. I was just saying that when he arrives and the aunt makes some comment like, "Oh, nice of him to make it."
No, and then the mother shuts her the fuck down when the aunt does that. You're just being a biddy. You're just being the kind of harsh biddy.
Well, in my Gala brain of fanciful whatever, in my opinion, I think, okay, Alice is the dad's daughter. Karen is the priest's daughter. They broke up because of the affair. He's showing up just as a cordial thing. I'm here for you. It's not his daughter. It's why they broke up their marriage, probably. They still love each other. They still make love, even when he comes home. They still love each other, but his wife has done him a disservice and has cheated on him. And so he's left and poor Alice is the one that's left behind. So that's how I would read it.
I think there's a little rewriting going on in there. All right.
In my fantasy land.
Yeah.
But not bad.
I'm doing, not bad. No,
Not bad at all.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. I do tend to think it's a situation where I think Linda Miller had a relationship with Father Tom before he became Father Tom. And there might have been a hanky-panky with one of the daughters. I do think that maybe Karen is Father Tom's daughter.
And then just one line I loved in this movie, children pay for the sins of their parents. Because it's all about apparently apparently Alice though was had out of wedlock, or someone was had out of wedlock. And so it was just
Alice would be,
she's older. Unless they got divorced and then Father Tom had an affair.
Yeah, it could have happened.
Anyway, I love that line though, that she's getting
It's a great line.
She's getting back at people because of that. So I loved it. I had a fun time watching it. My VHS, which is Alpha Video, I would not recommend getting it because it needs its own paperweight. It feels like it's going to fly away.
Hold it on the table.
Was 19...
It's a birthday balloon. Thank you very much.
Woo, off it goes. This Alpha Video was $19.99. I watched on Amazon. It was a beautiful transfer. But if you can get that Arrow Video Blu-ray, I'd recommend it.
No, I would recommend an Arrow Video Blu-ray for Alice Sweet Alice.
Yeah.
Unless you can get the original VCI version, because remember, porno company VCI is the one that actually came out with Alice Sweet Alice first, and that will be a full-on SP transfer.
Hi, Virginia. Hi.
Poor Virginia. Just when the rich young snobs at Crawford High condescended to come to her birthday party, they're all being murdered in the most bizarre ways imaginable. Happy birthday to me. Pray you're not invited.
Rated R. Now playing at a theater near you.
Happy Birthday to Me with co-hit Alice Sweet Alice will be playing Thursday, October 27th and Friday, October 28th at the New Beverly Cinema. 7165 Beverly Boulevard, Los Angeles, California, 90036. Visit thenewbev.com for tickets and more information. The New Beverly Cinema. Always on film. Always on film.
Okay, and we're back. And just to let everybody know, in honor of our last movie, Happy Birthday to Me, and in honor of my birthday that was yesterday, we've just had some ice cream cake and some other chocolate kind of cake.
From Carvel's.
Carvel and Sweet Lady Jane's, all right, that all had on it, Happy Birthday to Me. And we're all vibrating from, basically, we just took a bunch of reds.
Yeah, I feel like I've been freebasing in the corner of your kitchen for
literally feel the
while.
need to smoke a blunt, all right, to counteract the birthday cake. All right?
So this is going to be a very animated segment, right?
But then, in 15 minutes from now, start yawning, go to sleep.
Okay, so let's talk about Happy Birthday to Me, the film by J. Thompson, directed by J. Thompson, and starring Melissa Sue Anderson as Virginia. Glenn Ford's in it also.
And then we'll sugar crash, and then we won't even bother finishing this episode. We just turn it off at a certain point. So now our fourth film that I feel fits into the Giallo mode is one of my favorite directors, J. Thompson, is his Canadian-made film Happy Birthday to Me, starring Melissa Sue Anderson, Glenn Ford, Lawrence Dane, and a whole bunch of other people. Now, when the film came out during the time of the slasher films, and it was set up to be a slasher, and it is. It still qualifies completely as a slasher. But slashers and giallos are not the same, and the fact that this movie manages to completely walk the line between both of them actually is an achievement, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, it's funny because I never put it under the Giallo microscope until you mentioned it, because everyone remembers the iconic shish kebab poster. It's just one of the great images of early 80s horror posters, and it came out during the slasher boom.
At the height of it,
and
where they were all being taken for granted.
And also all the major holidays, except Thanksgiving, were taken. So they were like, well, what about birthday? Like a calendar. It's not really a holiday horror, but it's like a calendar event horror of a birthday. And they really sell it like you're going to go see Friday the 13th or one of these films. But it very much does, because it's got sort of the guessing game of who the killer is, but not like My Bloody Valentine or The Prowler.
No.
Each kill,
like a Giallo.
Like a Giallo, But then
where each character has one red herring scene where they get to act like a crazy person.
Yes, there's a red herring scene. Then they're killed.
And I've got a knife.
And the connection is that because John Saxon starred in Tenebrae and Girl Knew Too Much. John Saxton is one of the writers. I don't know if that counts as a Giallo connection. We're making it though. But there is the great thing.
When you've had as much ice cream cake as I've had, it is a connection.
It is a connection. But there's the great thing of like the people that look up and see the killer and go, oh, it's you.
Oh, one of my favorite cliches in movies when they don't show who the killer is, just their lower torso and their shoes walking in there, and that they're coming in as the killer, and they're like, oh wow, it's you! Great to see you. Hey, what's with that knife?
There's like 15. Oh, it's you. Also, because
the great John Saxton dialogue.
Great son. Oh, it's you. Yeah, but because there's a whole bunch of kids that are at a high school, even though they look like they're 27. And they all look like they go to college. It's this private school. And you just know there's going to be a high body count. The weird thing is it's not like got the Friday the 13th kind of sex. It's not like a body horror film. But there's a lot of couple swapping. Like everyone keeps switching partners.
Okay, before we get into
it is the 80s. It's 1981.
No, but that's a good point. And I want to bring it up when it has more of a context. So let me read the back of the box, okay? Welcome to upscale Crawford Academy, where everybody, especially new student Ginny, Melissa Sue Anderson of Little House on the Prairie, wants to be part of the school's most popular clique, the Crawford Top 10. But now, somebody has begun butchering the group's members. Could a deadly accident from Ginny's past be connected to the brutal killings? And as her 18th birthday approaches, will Ginny be the guest of honor at the most horrific party of all? Matt Craven from Disturbia, Lawrence Dane of Scanners, and Hollywood legend Glenn Ford, The Blackboard Jungle, 3:10 to Yuma, co-star in this twisted slasher shocker from Oscar-nominated director J. Lee Thompson, 1961's Guns of the Navarone, that features, as its infamous poster promised, 6 of the most bizarre murders you will ever see. RCA Columbia Home Video. We took this out of the H in the horror section.
Well, what I love about Happy Birthday to Me, at first it's a longish movie. Runs about an hour, 50 minutes. So your basic slashers kind of clock in around 90 or 100. So they really spend a lot of time going into Melissa Sue Anderson's backstory, and there's this very disturbing brain surgery scene. There's kind of flashbacks
and accident scene,
and accidents with a mother, and J. Lee Thompson, who we all love. I mean, from the Death Wish, there's so many films, but the movies just move. They just start off. There's no fat. They just everyone's a suspect. Everything's a red herring. It feels like Torso or one of the more kind of college set Giallo films. But what's great about it, without giving anything away or getting to it, is the sort of resolution. It does follow Giallo. You're like, is it a slasher film? It's a Giallo. And then the ending is so batshit crazy. You're like, oh, it's a Giallo.
Yeah. The whole film qualifies as a Giallo, but could also be called a slasher simultaneously. But the fact that the past trauma backstory is so ridiculously crazy, that's what officially puts it in the term of a Giallo. And we've already had nothing but batshit crazy explanations of why the killer has killed on this quadruple feature that we had. This is still the craziest one.
This is as crazy as Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
Like when suddenly the reveal happens, you're like, what?
Well, Roger, what do you think of Happy Birthday to Me?
Well, I think J. Lee Thompson squeezes in all of his particular perversions into this one.
Well, he does, but that's, again, you're saying that as a compliment.
No, I say that as a compliment. I say that as like, as a guy who is, in many ways a kind of studio journeyman, filmmaker, a guy who, comes in and takes a job and delivers. And I think this is like his only quote unquote slasher film.
Well, he's
Giallo.
Look, he made a mark for himself, like doing thrillers. He was his movie the Yellow Balloon.
Yeah, for sure. The Yellow Balloon is amazing.
You've seen the Yellow Balloon?
Oh yeah, I have it on DVD.
Oh, it's terrific.
I have a foreign version of it on DVD.
His idea at some point was he wanted to be he would have been happy if I could be like a second tier Hitchcock, and just doing those kind of thrillers. He got waylaid. Well, by Guns of the Navarone.
He becomes an auteur because of his consistency with squeezing in his particular.
Well, I agree with you. I think one of the things
perversions.
One of the things that makes J. Lee Thompson an auteur is he's one of cinema's lovable degenerates.
Yes.
The fact that he finds really questionable relationships and really questionable sexuality, and the fact that he seems to be turned on by him and then presents them in a way that's not condemnation against them, as actually accepting of them, is an auteur trait that follows from movie to movie to movie to movie.
You can detect it. When you detect it in the film, you can say, oh my God, I am actually now watching a J. Lee Thompson film. He's showing us a peek into himself.
Yeah. In the case of a film I'm a big fan of, The Reincarnation of Peter Proud.
Exactly.
With the possible exception of Hotel New Hampshire, it's the only movie where there's a rooting interest in the incest to happen.
Yeah.
Now it's once removed because the guy is...
Yeah, technically, we're okay to do this because technically I'm a different person.
Yeah. There's this wonderful moment. But through the whole movie, Michael Sarrazin is saying, is like insisting, no, I think I'm this guy, Peter Proud. Then he ends up meeting his adult daughter, Jennifer O'Neill. And then at first he starts pushing her off when it looks like she wants to have an affair with him. Then he breaks down and has an affair with her, and he falls in love with her. And then he's talking to like the buddy who he's explaining the whole plot to through the whole film, so we understand what's going on. And he's been making this case that he is Peter Proud. And now he has to defend himself because he's fucking Peter Proud's daughter. And then finally it all comes down to, okay, look. She may have been my daughter in another life, but she's not my daughter in this life.
And that's almost J. Lee Thompson talking out loud.
Okay, and just forget about his last movie, which is Conjette, where like he burns down the whole house just before he goes out. He douses himself in gasoline, douses the film in gasoline, douses Charles Bronson in gasoline, and just sets it all afire. All right, and it's a beautiful, glorious pyre. All right,
it sure is.
Okay. Now, where this falls into Happy Birthday to Me, well, a couple of areas, but the most significant area, and even on an episode that has Dressed to Kill on it, my favorite relationship between a psychiatrist and his patient in the history of cinema is Melissa Sue Anderson and her doctor, Dave, played by Glenn Ford.
Who she never calls anything other than Dave!
Yeah, okay, not Dr. Bennings or whatever. No, it's just Dave. And they're related.
Which in itself implies something. In J. Lee land.
In J. Lee land. Oh, you don't even need to be in J. Lee land to all of a sudden. I think even when the day the movie was released, I think people were like, what's kind of up between those two?
The daughter comes home and she kisses her dad right on the lips.
Yeah.
So even with the father-daughter relationship, there's a little something.
Well, she definitely has a thing for older men, that's for sure.
But they make him look sexy. He's not like a guy who's a Sigmund Freud. They're like, oh, it's Glenn Ford, but we're going to play this.
Well, I love Glenn Ford in this movie. I think he's terrific in this film.
But he's got his shirt unbuttoned. He's dressed like Bob Guccione.
No, you're 100% right. He's not this older man, fatherly authority figure. They're trying to make Glenn Ford look as handsome as Glenn Ford can look at this age. There is a sexy quality to Glenn Ford with his cool white shirts, his Italian cool white shirts with his cool black sweater on and everything.
Yeah, and his gold chains and the bare chest. He's a swinging shrink. But also they do this really clever device in the movie that she had this experimental brain procedure that part of her head was cut out, part of her brain. She had this traumatic accident and she can't remember stuff, but her memory is starting to come back to her. So they really make you wonder, as these murders are happening, is she doing it as she's remembering things, or is she going to solve the identity of the killer? Like, they're sort of leading you into thinking that she's going to solve the puzzle. But of course, we can't gets insane.
It's a movie playing with a zillion amount of red herrings, so it's your job to deduce who amongst this list of suspects is the killer. Then the film seemingly tells you who the killer is about midway through, and you're not prepared for the answer. And then it starts going on a whole other track than it's been going, only like a Giallo to jump the track a third time.
Yeah.
There's 2 jump the track moments in the movie. It's still fun, but there's like one batshit crazy thing in a Giallo. We're like, well, okay, all right, I guess that's what wrapped it up. But the deaths were so fun, I don't care. They do it twice in this, where you're just like, and I don't want to spoil it, but you almost have to like spoil it a little bit. But like in the killer's reveal, you think is the killer's reveal, but it's not the killer's reveal. But you've been seeing it, and you're just like, wait, what? huh?
How can this not?
How could no one have noticed? How could that actually have been practically pulled off and barely set up at any point in the movie and then executed? It's so outlandish and preposterous, but that's also what gives the movie its fucking charm.
It's entertaining. It's
entertaining as hell.
No, I don't buy it.
You don't get mad at it. You're just like, wow.
Oh, that's fucking bullshit. No, you don't say that.
No, it's fun. And that's what
it actually makes the movie.
And then the birthday party at the end with all the dead bodies and her, singing of Happy Birthday to Me. It's sort of the moment you've been waiting for. And they tell you on the poster that you'll see the murders like Greg won't be able to, Steve won't ride his bike anymore. Greg won't lift weights anymore. Like the poster lists out the ways they're going to kill you. They're like, not only you see this many people die, this is how we're going to kill them. There's a guy with a shish kebab and there's going to be a birthday party. And it really delivers on all of it.
Okay. And then at the top of the batshit crazy things is the mask technology that would put Mission Impossible to shame.
To me, that was the Roger Rabbit moment that I was speaking of. But wait, it's me, and then you pull off a mask.
But
I'm the villain.
But I kind of loved it. I really did.
Well, he does it really well. He does it in a really movie. It's a movie, and so it's as real as the shish kebab
actually
scene.
Does work. That whole birthday party does work.
Yeah.
Oh, it's incredible. It's just, but yeah, the mask reveal, it just couldn't. And the way they sort of set it up with one character earlier, but they're like, his hobby is taxidermy, but he also makes fake human heads really well.
Like a makeup effects guy.
Because no one would have known what a makeup effects artist was in 1980 when they shot it. Yeah. So they're like, oh, taxidermy. Yeah. That's just, you do heads and stuff. Yeah. So they've got
like a raccoon or something there to...
Yeah, and then there's the head, which is the actress sticking her head through the table. So you're like, so they pull the thing off and you're like, they just found their friend's severed head. But then they're like, oh, wait a minute. That's a really good mask the guy made.
It's my hobby.
And he pulls the eyeball out. And you're like, okay, that's what that guy does.
Now, but right up there in Giallo land with the ridiculousness of the reveal of the killer and then the crazy story that is backed up by why they're doing all these murders is, again, straight out of an Italian movie. The hysterical past traumatic incident that put Melissa Sue Anderson in the hospital involving her mother. That whole scene is one of the best scenes that we saw. All right. It's so over the top. It seems like a weird, bad dubbing of one of those Italian crazy sequences.
That's what's so great about her, is that she's so over the top. And it's like, Mom, and it's like, I invited them all and none of them showed up to the party. And they should. And she's like, we're going to bring you over to their party. She's like, Mommy, don't make me. That no one shows up to her birthday party, that she's traumatized, or that she's sort of seemingly the new girl, but no one remembers her from that back then.
But
she had that terrible accident. Actually, frankly, when the killer explains how it happened, you can go back and no, it's all happening because the killer indoctrinated her into the group. When you go backwards and think about it.
There's also some amazing things where it's like high school and this private school and this elite, they're so rich and they're so elite that they like own the town and they're like hanging out in a local bar and getting beers and putting mice in beers.
It's Canada. It's Canada. That's a Canadian joke.
I think if she's turning 18, it's obviously a high school, but it's like an academy that runs like a college. Because to me, the kids just absolutely remind me of the kids from St. Elmo's Fire. Even in that tavern that they hang out with might as well be the St. Elmo's Fire tavern. But it's and the cars that they drive and the scarves that they wear.
But it's also some of the counselors from Meatballs. So it's like the counselors from Meatballs went back to college and they were in a horror movie.
Okay, that's just the Canadian aspect.
Well, no, actually, it's more than just the Canadian aspect. Andre Link and John Dunning, who produced this movie, produced Meatballs.
Yeah. No, it's
they made Meatballs in '79.
Matt Craven, who's the most recognizable of the Crawford 10, is the most recognizable guy other than Bill Murray in Meatballs.
I mean, you mentioned that this is a Canadian film, and this is like really a Canadian film because it's produced by these two guys, Andre Link and John Dunning, who early on, they were the ones who made Shivers with Cronenberg.
Yeah, those guys and Ivan Reitman and Jean-Claude Lord, are the Canadian guys that did horror genre movies, that New World.
And it was more than just that they were Canadian guys doing horror. They were Canadian guys who, for the first time, were taking government money for the arts and using them to make
slasher
movies. Shivers
or Rabid
and Rabid,
the clown murders,
and My Bloody Valentine the same year.
Yeah.
And so these guys guys were out there, and it was an outrage in Canada. They're like, how dare you take public monies? In fact, they were saying that about me as well on my film.
But then those were the movies that actually, those were the movies that made money. Yeah.
Those are the movies that made money for telefilm. And these were the guys who really did it. I mean, these were almost more than any other.
It's a really enjoyable collection of these type of horror movie cliches that done in just the right spirit with a very like energetic cast in a quick, entertaining way that just keeps it up. It keeps the juggling balls flowing.
Well, they'll kill someone, and then as soon as they're dead, like one other character shows up. It's like, what did I miss? I was like, oh, I got delayed at the library. They're like to make them seem like a suspect. They keep doing that, but the deaths are inventive. You have the motocross guy with that crazy motocross scene where they're going nuts. And then he gets like pulled into the bike with his crazy Harry Potter scarf that everyone, he wears like a 10-foot scarf while he's repairing his motorcycle.
It's a school scarf. I think everybody has.
Yeah. It's like, okay, he's like destined to die like Isadora Duncan.
Yeah. And then, you have the other guy lifting the weights who, somehow can't lower them.
That's the best murder.
And then,
although,
the weight.
Probably just drop him behind you or.
Well, he thinks she's going to help him out.
And he's like, help me. And then, the killer takes the plate.
It's not funny, man.
But it really works because, like Jackass,
quit messing around, man.
It might not have been a 25-pound weight.
Oh, it's you.
Even if that's a prop weight, they drop the plate on the guy's balls when he's wearing those thin 80s nylon jogging shorts.
Dr. J, one ball hanging out.
Exactly. That just looked like a painful.
And he's semi-flaccid, it looks like.
Who's the stunt guy who has to fucking take one for the team for that? But it just makes it's such a great kill.
Yeah.
They're fun. And then, of course, the shish kebab. When the shish kebab's coming because you've seen the poster.
Yeah, the fact that she's like, oh, let's like sit next to the fire and let me make you a little shish kebab.
She goes, "Would you like a midnight snack?" And then he comes back. He's like, "Here's some shish kebab." And you're like, "What?"
I had these in the fridge.
Let me just roast up some shishki. And then he's like,
But we don't ask those questions because we've seen the poster,
and we don't care.
We're just waiting for the shish kebab to show up.
Get the shish kebab in the mouth, and he dies.
And then it's like that's like your favorite guy, all right, from the group.
Yeah, it's just enjoyable. And then the one guy. By the way, Rudy, who really looks like Rudy the Rabbit for me, are they just naming every Canadian character Rudy in the late 70s?
It must be,
When Rudy appears in the library and then they're digging the skull up. I mean, a lot of really great, kind of right up until the end, and then the father's coming home from the business trip and they got the rainstorm. It just looks like and feels like a classic horror movie. Basically, the great thing is it's because it's such a high body count, you don't have to wait long for a kill. If you're watching a movie, within 5 minutes or 7 minutes, someone's going to die.
Well, also, I would also say that there is a symbiotic connection to the whole last sequence and the whole reveal to Happy Birthday to Me to the very first Scream.
Oh, yeah.
The storyline of the very first Scream follows kind of closely the backstory line of Happy Birthday to Me.
Yeah, it does.
Even to the point of where they have that the father is like kind of tied up and been hidden through most of the movie. And they pretty much describe it in the same cockamamie way that the killer describes it in this.
I mean, just the way he stages like major action and catastrophes of the car on the bridge as the bridge is going up. And they can't get out of the car, and it's like, or they're hitting the reverse, and because it's raining, the wheels are skidding, and then they fall in the water, and the mother has been pinned in the accident, and then she tells the daughter she can't get out, and she's like, open the window and swim, and she's like, no, Mom, no, and she's like, hold your breath and swim as hard as you can, and then she opens it, and the car floods, the mother dies, and it's really, really.
But then her getting hit,
tugboat.
Her getting hit by that tugboat in the head is so horrible. I cringed, and I felt it in a bad way.
Yeah.
But then you have the whole thing at the beginning when the kids are playing chicken with the rising bridge and everything, and that's really exciting. And and
the guy does the jump and totals his car.
No, I like it. You were great. The one guy with the girls that don't want to go on the jump does the jump. You go, okay.
Trash your Firebird, douche.
I mean, he plants it on the radiator, and then
he's like, fine.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
And then he's mad that the other guy didn't jump, that the other guy chickened out.
Yeah. Well,
not that he just trashed his Firebird.
I also really love Melissa Sue Anderson in this. And I love that she chose this
Yes,
to do.
Me too.
Like while shooting Little House on the Prairie, to me, that was like, for me, it was akin to Jessica Biel coming and doing Rules of Attraction on the heels of Seventh Heaven. It's like she's sitting there doing, with Michael Landon all day long, like reading Bible, doing Bible study in between scenes. And, I'm sure she was going fucking crazy. And she's like, go to Canada. J. Lee Thompson. I get to play this traumatized individual
in a teenager movie. All right, teenager movie, modern day. Yeah.
And she, you can tell, she is the one who wants to be there. She's excited to be there. And she's giving herself 100% to it, to this kind of the dementia of this character.
No, she's really, really good at it. She did actually a really fun TV movie around the same time. I don't know. I think it was just before maybe she did Happy Birthday to Me or just afterwards. A juvenile delinquent movie where she's like a young girl that's brought into a juvenile delinquent gang that's causing problems, directed by Jack Starrett, called The Survival of Dana. And Robert Carradine plays the leader of the bad kids.
Okay.
And she's the good girl that's indoctrinated into the gang.
You know what you said? It's why I cast Ryder Strong in Cabin Fever. He was coming off Boy Meets World for years, where he's like, oh, I get to fuck and kill and swear.
And you know that
smash.
he's going to give himself 100% to you.
And the kids that were fans of Melissa Sue Anderson, like fans of Ryder Strong, they're shocked because they're like, what the fuck? And that's what adds to the element of a horror movie. So any aspiring directors out there, if you're making a horror movie, get a Disney kid that's never done anything wrong and they'll go nuts.
Find some Musketeer if they still have those.
How wonderful that we found a connection with Happy Birthday to Me with one of your movies and one of your movies.
I love it. No, when I want to make Thanksgiving, and Happy Birthday to Me is like definitely up there in inspiration. I mean, the thing is with Giallo, obviously they are of a particular time, of a particular era, and people now try to sort of recreate that, which you can sort of never recapture, would make them great because it's not authentic. And I think what made the slasher movies great was the slasherness of, like, you had to outdo all the other movies. You had to get inventive with the deaths, and they were taking a hook and trying to kill a bunch of kids and make a cheap buck, and that's what made them what they are. In the same way you can't go back. And the Giallos were definitely the precursor. Parallel to that, there were in the 70s in Italy, there were the commedia sexy all'italiana, these Italian sex comedies, which
really
become
that sounds really good.
Well, it's one of his favorite genres.
When you say that, it sounds really sexy.
No, he can talk about Michelle Tarantini and
Massimo Tarantini, Nando Cicero, Viva la Foca, movie starring Bombolo, this kind of buffoonish older man, and beautiful young women, like, which were often Edwige Fenech and Barbara Boucher and Anna Maria Rizzoli and Laura Del Santo,
Laura Antonelli.
Laura Antonelli.
And if it's not that dude, it's Lando Brazuca.
Lando Brazuca, Alvaro Vitali was one, Lino Banfi. But those sort of became the template for American sex comedies. And what's interesting is that really Bob Clark is the one who sort of takes, Bay of Blood and puts it into Black Christmas.
Another Canadian.
Canadian starts the slasher. And then Bob Clark really takes a lot of the elements. It's almost like he mixes an Italian sex comedy with elements of, like, Last Picture Show, and he creates Porky's, which launches the sex comedy craze.
Boffo B.O.
And then, it makes $181 million in 1981.
Confused everyone.
A masterpiece of a film. We watched Beautiful 35 of it. Really holds up. Great photography. Just an amazing.
Great.
Well, Bob Clark is
and then Bob Clark director. Then pivots. Well, forget Turk 182, but he does pretend it doesn't exist. But then he does A Christmas Story, which kind of reinvents the Christmas movie. What a master! But it's interesting.
It makes one of the best movies of all time.
But if you think about
Repeatable movies.
What we love about Giallo films is that kind of going back is that, the 50s American, the 60s American Westerns, you weren't allowed to show blood. But of course, in Italy, they don't have that rule. So you have Sergio Corbucci and creating on-screen violence. So suddenly, and then they put the electric guitar in there. So suddenly everything looks old-fashioned in the U.S. So then the Americans, you have Peckinpah, and everyone's trying to take from the Italians. And then, the thrillers and the crime films that, it's interesting, like Joe D'Amato called himself D'Amato because he wanted to sound like Martin Scorsese or Robert De Niro. Like, there's such symbiosis in the 60s and 70s between Americans influencing Italians. And
you have basically in Italy, French Connection and Dirty Harry being the most influential movies ever made. But then they're ripoffs of those, just like we were talking about how the ripoffs of Psycho create their own genre, become the Giallos. That becomes the Policiers, which leads and with Godfather leads into the mafia movies. The Fernando De Leo, Enzo G. Castarelli crime action films of Italy out of the 70s, which are magnificent.
Yeah, the Maurizio Merli films, the Poliziotas. No, it's really amazing. So if you love Giallo, but you go and you watch Once Upon a Time in the West, you're going to go, wait, Dario Argento, like the writers, and it was the Sergio Salvati, the deep director of photography. A lot of the writers of the spaghetti westerns, when that genre sort of went on the decline, everybody moved over into Giallo films. So if you love spaghetti westerns, you'll start seeing a lot of the same names.
Fernando De Leo, the director I just mentioned, didn't direct a spaghetti western, but he wrote a lot of great ones. He wrote Navajo Joe. Yeah, not only that, he wrote the script that for a few dollars more is based on. They bought his script to get rid of him so they could take that and make that the second film.
So it's amazing. You could really see that these guys, that they took sort of the violence of Corbucci and they put it into spaghetti western, and then all of the spaghetti western violence moves into the Giallo films, and the Giallo films, then you can see Scorsese and De Palma and everyone in America going, whoa, what are these guys doing in Italy? Let's put that into Mean Streets. Let's put it in High Mom. And then all of a sudden it's really interesting, sort of the symbiosis of what the genre. So it's not just that we love these movies because they're fun and they have batshit crazy plot twists. As like film historians, you can see, oh my God, that was a spaghetti western that became that writer. Whoa, Lucio Fulci did that 4 of the Apocalypse, and he was a writer on this movie, and that influenced Scorsese and De Palma and these guys, and then it went, and then that influenced Bob Clark, which influenced John Carpenter. So there's a real kind of back and forth relationship between American and Italian horror.
Okay, and we're back, and we're joined by Gala.
Okay, guys, let me go through my American Giallo checklist for this movie. Okay. Crazy backstory, check. Straight razor kill at the beginning, check. Potential split personalities / sisters, check. Back east? Potentially.
Montreal's technically back east.
Oh, that's east.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
That's
It doubles occasionally for eastern cities.
Check. Church? Check. Awesome unique murders? Check. 100 twists? Check. No police detective story? Check.
Black leather gloves.
Black leather gloves? Check.
Even though every character in the movie wears black leather gloves. But when it comes down to the killer hand shots, they are definitely wearing black leather gloves.
Cold in Montreal.
Yes, I understand.
See,
you don't have to be a killer to protect your hands from the frost.
If I had not just gotten my education from these 3 director masters at this table right here, I would not have thought of this as a Giallo film. It felt the most Western out of the 4 movies that we watched.
And by Western, you mean like...
not European.
She means non-European.
I was originally going to say it felt the most American out of the 4, but then I realized it's a Canadian film. So
no, they're trying to make it feel American.
And also...
Right? A Canadian movie goes out of its way to make movies feel American.
Quentin, Canada technically is in the Americas.
Yes.
But it felt the most American to me, least Italian and least heritage drawn. And I think that's because it's filmed partially in Quebec. Yeah. We don't have the Italian influence of New York and New Jersey and that regional area and those actors.
We have a French influence instead.
So
a Clouseau influence, maybe.
Yeah, so to me it felt the least, but that being said...
The elements don't lie.
Inspector or Henri George?
Henri George.
Okay.
The elements don't lie. This movie is so fun. Okay. First off, it opens with that straight razor kill where you think that girl's going to get killed 3 different times. Yeah. First with the dog, which I've never seen what was that? The leash is whipping around her legs from a bulldog.
Oh yeah, it was like a whip came flying out of the dark and wrapped around her legs.
It's like the tree branch from Evil Dead level evil leash.
Yeah, it was like the leash just wrapped around her legs.
Yeah, and then she gets strangled in her car, and then she's at a train track and gets stabbed with a straight razor. And
it's a 3-for-1 kill. It really is.
And by the way, that backseat murder has a lot of really good sexual terror in it. There's a whole, and there's a lot of kicking legs.
Jay Lee shoots the shit out of it. In fact, it's actually so Jay Lee that he would show the feet, her heels.
Her heels
ripping up the ceiling of the car.
The fabric of the ceiling of the car.
Kicking the fabric. That was like, cars are difficult to shoot in. To shoot a struggle like that in a car is difficult because you can only do so much with the camera and the angles, and it's night, so you have a more shallow depth of field. You have restrictions on you, and he's really making you feel tight in there with them.
And by the way, I'm a big fan of that actress. She's kind of a Canadian scream queen. That's Leslie Donaldson, who is the star of William Fruit's Funeral Home, which I'm a big fan of. But she's also in Curtains and a couple of other ones as well.
Well, also she does the fake out where you think she's going to die and she fakes being strangled to death. And then
that's the brilliant move.
So you're like, oh, she's smart.
That's awesome.
Well, she's smart until she gets 5 feet and stops and starts looking around.
Then you're like,
and then gets another 5 feet and stops and starts looking around.
Got away. And you take my breath.
But you know what I love about that, though, is because in Dress to Kill, we just talked about the dream sequence versus the dream sequence in Carrie. How in Carrie, it's one scene. And then how in Dress to Kill, it's 2 separate scenes.
Shots.
Or double
scenes.
2 scenes. And then in this, you assume, okay, there's like the scare at the beginning. And then the second one, she's for sure going to die. And then she gets away. So you think, okay,
maybe she lives. Maybe this is our star.
Our main star.
Yeah.
And then she dies.
Yeah.
It's a great like twist reveal that we get. It's awesome.
Jay Lee milks it. I milked it. I milked that scene.
You guys brought up the weight scene. I thought the irony in that was really cool because we know whoever's lifting the weights knows who the killer is. And then we as the audience know that who's watching him is the killer. So there's like this like weird kind of irony going on. I don't really understand how they cleaned up all that blood.
No, I don't buy
it. But I tried to
I went with it, but I didn't buy it.
So I've heard that Jay Lee on the set of this had to be calmed down because he was blood crazy. Apparently, he would ask the Canadian prop department to bring him like jugs of blood, and that he would be splashing it around apparently and spraying it. And the prop guys would go to the producers, John Dunning and Andre Link, and say, "Hey, you got to tell Jay Lee to stop. He's making a mess. It's getting on the crew. It's getting on the camera. Blood is going everywhere. There's too much blood." And they were trying to calm him down. He wouldn't calm down.
Good problem.
That's my boy, Jay Lee, man.
Well, also, I love the amount of blood that came out from that guy when they put the weight on his crotch, and then like the bar falls on his neck and just blood sprays everywhere.
His is definitely my favorite of the postmortem bodies.
Yes.
All right, you kind of like, there's the guy, there's the weight dude.
Yeah, there's the weight dude.
There's the weight dude.
And I even liked the weight dude.
There's a weight dude. I know that dude.
You got it right in the boner.
Weight dude looks like Frankenstein.
In the nard, dude.
What a way to die.
Got it in the nard.
And I even like the non-death fake outs, like the fake out of what's buried under the rose bushes and the fake out of the blood in the church. Like you think that murders have taken place, but then they haven't. So we're getting like these multi-layer, like, is it happening or is it not happening? The scene in the bathtub when like the curtain is pulled back.
I mean, we're essentially going through what Melissa Sue Anderson is going through.
Yeah.
But also, we get some good early 80s horror movie guy doing impressions in a movie when he goes into Peter Lorre. When he does Quasimodo, and then he's doing his Peter Lorre. Very similar to Rene Auberjonois.
Lloyd Bridges!
When he does his Lloyd Bridges, you're like, whoa!
One of the great moments of the movie.
He does a great Lloyd Bridges.
He does. He goes, here's my Lloyd Bridges. And you're like, that's an amazing. I didn't know you could do Lloyd Bridges.
I know, that was great. That was great.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for the kebab the entire movie, but like, to make a kebab for someone on a date, like when you're like bringing them back home to like, essentially have sex in front of your fireplace,
to make
like,
out, like let's have some kebab first.
We couldn't help but mention it. Okay. Oh, let's have some peppery beef and then make out.
Yes.
like
I want you to taste like a brisket.
I want you to taste my onion that I just bought into, and my bell pepper, and my piece of beef.
But his is like, she's like, I want to make yours extra spicy because don't you like extra spicy things? And he's like, yeah. And she's like putting that spice on like with this giant spoon, and it's just like covered in it, and he eats it, and he's like, yeah, delicious.
That's spicy, all right.
But like, what a guy will do to get laid, I guess. He'll eat that kebab.
Anything.
But that kill is also really great because it just goes like straight up his mouth and just like there.
It's wonderful. It's a great gag.
My favorite violence of the entire movie, which I guess isn't really violence, is the brain surgeon scene.
Oh yeah,
it's amazing.
I was like,
That,
I had forgot about that sequence, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is fucking disturbing." When the brain starts growing out of the hole in the skull.
When it starts doing the humongous moment where
For all the viewers out there, just so you know, first they cut open the scalp, and then they roll back the scalp.
You gotta peel it back.
And then they take a drill and drill open the skull.
4 holes.
4 holes.
Yeah, it's like they make hinges, all right?
That's
to pop it loose.
Point, I had to look away because I was like, this is like the drill was just like.
But the funny part is like once it starts swelling and they're like, "Oh, doctor, we have a problem." He's like, and he starts like kind of trying to stuff the scalp lid back on and push the brain back in, like just push that back in, like you're trying to.
It's like closing a jar of the stuff. Yeah. It just doesn't want to go back in. And that really,
give me the Black and Decker, quick!
That really freaked me out as a kid more than anything in that movie because she's awake. And I remember as a kid, I was like, wait a minute, why didn't they put her to sleep? It's like, why is she awake? You have to be awake during brain surgery.
Yeah.
So you see your face going, ow, ow.
I agree. The relationship between her and her therapist is like hilarious and also like clearly sexual. She gives him a kiss and invites him to her birthday party, like, and refers to him first name basis. And I was thinking like, they're definitely like there's daddy issues going on with her.
There's definitely something going on.
And then he stays at the house.
Jay Lee. It's Jay Lee Thompson. Come on.
Everything Glenn Ford says is a fucking red flag to this idea. Even to the point...
Every button he unbuttons to reveal more of his chest hair.
Even to the point where somebody shows up, I think a cop or something, shows up to find out, like, well, what's going on with
the house. Yeah.
He goes, well, I've been here all weekend.
Yeah. And the guy looks at him like, why are you here?
Okay, say no fucking more. Hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I mean, everything he says completely with a straight face and completely like...
She's upstairs. She can't come down right now. I've been here all weekend. You're not supposed to come in. I'm here with her. I'll tell her.
I got it from here.
Yeah, I got it from here.
And I agree. The mother acting is like over the top, but like deliciously over the top.
I know. I agree.
I was eating.
I'm not making fun of her. I love her.
I felt like I was looking through like an old TV screen, like back in time into like an old funny show where she's just acting over the top. And I love the flashbacks. The scene, Eli, that you mentioned when the bridge is coming apart and the car is sitting there. That was so inventive.
And they're really doing it. That's what's so great. Yeah. No green screen, no bullshit. Get in the car. Open the bridge.
And if Melissa Sue Anderson was actually the killer, that's a pretty good triggering reason for her to go on this.
Hell yeah.
Especially if she doesn't know what she's doing, if she's schizophrenic. The whole thing that happens at the beginning.
Oh my God.
That's actually a better motivation than most of these other killers have.
Yeah.
And just...
In fact, all of them.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil, but I have to say it. Quentin, you just reminded me, thinking back to the beginning of this movie, like knowing who the killer is, parts of the opening just make so much more sense to me now. Like,
they all jump in the bridge.
Yeah, but
it's going to trigger her.
But even like her being pushed into the car with him specifically by her, it just makes so much more sense now. Like these things that I love that like it should have clued me in, but because there were so many red herrings, it didn't clue me in.
And there's a lot of red herrings. This movie lays them on.
Yeah, it is literally, it
has fun with it.
Which again is the thing that makes it not a faux Giallo, but an actual Giallo.
No, it's a jar of herrings.
Yeah.
Herrings everywhere.
Oh, what did I call it? Happy herring to me?
It's herring jam, so to speak.
Herring in the Henderson.
Yeah.
Okay, so I bought my VHS from RCA Columbia, Japan for $45. Originally, it retailed for 15,800 yen, which currently is 127 US dollars, but in 1981, it was $166. The tape number says it was 7,545, but I don't know from which video store just yet, but I'll report back when I find it.
Oh, the one you're buying from Japan?
The one I'm buying from Japan, yes. Yeah. I rented this on Amazon, but I just want to give a shout out to a company called Mill Creek Blu-ray, who does these VHS style line of Blu-rays, and I printed out a piece of paper that has the picture of it, but they do like these VHS style.
Oh wow, that is
boxes.
I actually thought it was a VHS box.
Yeah,
I saw your thing on it.
Yeah, they have a whole VHS line.
And actually, Mill Creek, I think, used to be a budget video company. Maybe they're branching out.
Yeah, but I would say if you want to pick up a actual physical copy of this and you don't have a VHS player, try to get the Mill Creek Blu-ray VHS style line box of this because it's super cool looking and probably worth the buy.
Yeah.
And I just want to do a quick shout out to Jacqueline Carmody, who was in the editorial department on Happy Birthday to Me, and who worked with us on Lucky Day. So,
good deal. Cool.
Shout out.
Okay, let's get down to awards.
Ba-ba-da-ba.
Dun, da, da, dun, da, da, da. Okay, so we'll start off with our customer here. Okay, of the 4 films, Best Actor and Best Actress.
Huh. It's like, how can you not absolutely love Nancy Allen in Dress to Kill? But I almost want to give a shout out to Alice Shepard. What's her name?
Paula E. Shepard.
Paula Shepard. Okay. Between Paula Shepard and Nancy Allen, I think that I love Nancy Allen so much in Dress to Kill, and she's brilliant in everything. It's hard, but she's Nancy Allen. That what Paula Shepard did as a kid actor, working kind of unknown at 19,
or as a teen playing a kid actor.
As a teen playing a kid actor. My favorite performance is her. I think the movie doesn't work without her. I think Nancy Allen is spectacular, but if someone else played the part, the movie would still work. I think the movie doesn't work, so I'm going to give it to Paula Shepard.
Excellent. Okay.
Because I love her. And then, I mean, for Best Actor, we got to go with Michael Caine.
Okay.
It's just too good. It's like, it's not even fair to pretend there's anyone other than Michael Caine.
Gala.
Okay, so for Best Actress, I have to go with Nancy Allen in Dress to Kill. She brings this comedic quality to the role that you wouldn't always find, and she makes it really easy not to judge her, especially like with her smarts. And part of that's the writing, but part of that's also her delivery. Best Actor, I'm not going to give it to Michael Caine because, in my opinion, his performance actually is intertwined and dependent on Bill Finley's performance as Bobby. So,
as well as a myriad of other
as well as
body doubles throughout.
Now, is the guy that like does the Quasimodo impersonation in Happy Birthday to Me, is that technically a lead actor?
I think the only person that could qualify as a lead actor in
Glenn Ford
is Glenn Ford. Yeah,
I'll give it to Glenn Ford then.
Okay,
why not?
I love Glenn Ford. I'm happy about that. Look, I just in a list of throw 3 other movies there. All right, in a list of movies that includes Nancy Allen and Dress to Kill, I'm gonna fucking pick Nancy Allen. All right, you know, I think that's maybe her signature role, especially as a lead. It's her signature role, but also along with Godard and Anna Karina, Brian De Palma and Nancy Allen are absolutely positively my favorite director, actress, husband-wife couple in cinema history. They're my favorite of that team up, and I think this is their best version of that. He obviously wrote it for her, and so it's Nancy Allen. And look, if there's a secondary one, it would be Linda Miller. But yeah, just Nancy Allen is just that's it. And my choice for Best Actor is absolutely Michael Caine. I mean, my feeling on it is actually interesting. On the Pure Cinema podcast, Brian Sauer will say from time to time, he's a big disaster film fan. And he tries to make a case about Steve McQueen when it comes to Towering Inferno. That's actually one of my favorite Steve McQueen performances. Now I know
you keep building him higher, and
now I know what he means. I don't agree per se because that's just such a bad movie. All right, I don't, but I know what he means about what McQueen does bring to that film. But that's exactly my feeling when it comes to Michael Caine in Dress to Kill. You cannot compare how little he ends up doing in the movie and how thin the character is to all this vast array of characters and performances that Michael Caine has given. It's one of his most iconic roles in one of his most iconic movies. And the fact that he does so much with so little and makes such an impression, and he pretty much only has the first half hour to make that impression. It's one of the great Michael Caine performances. It's definitely one of the most iconic Michael Caine performances.
Okay, you know what? You're kind of turning me a little bit, Quentin, because when I think back now in my memory, and I think about Michael Caine when he looks into the mirror, and you can actually see him making the actors change, and you can actually see him becoming Bobby, I think you're right. I fold. You're right.
Look, I mean, yeah, I want to.
Are you jumping off the Glenn Ford horse onto the Michael Caine?
Jumping on the Michael Caine horse.
Yeah, it's hard to compare. I mean, look, I love Paula Shepard, but there's nothing like Nancy. I mean, it is. You're right. It's not fair. Dress Kill's going to win everything. I just want Paula Shepard to get some love. But yeah,
I'm down with. I'm down with.
No, there is not better acting.
I haven't voted yet.
Yeah.
Roger, what are your votes?
Roger.
Well, okay, so it's Michael Caine, obviously.
Yay, Michael Caine! Yay, Dr. Elliot!
Finally, he's getting some recognition.
And in fact, almost more so because apparently Sean Connery almost took this role.
Yeah. Can you even imagine that?
I cannot imagine for
as
a second.
ridiculous as Michael Caine looks in the Bobby outfit, that actually seems legit compared to Sean Connery.
I need you to look to my patient Bobby.
I had my straight razor, and now I've lost it.
I've lost my straight razor.
I had my blonde wig, now I've lost it.
So it's Michael Caine, without question, as best actor. I just love Michael Caine, and you know, Dressed to Kill is one of my very favorite movies, and so yeah, Michael Caine. Best actress was much more difficult for me because, like you guys, Paula Shepherd. It's fantastic. Reminded me of Paige O'Connor as Katie in The Visitor.
Yeah,
actually. And so I was having I was kind of fully sold that I'm going to definitely give it to Paula Shepherd. And I was like, no, I have to give it to my girl, Lady Faye Dunaway.
Okay.
Who I
Lady Faye.
Lady Faye. I've got to give it to her.
A former Avery actress.
Yeah, former. I've got to give it to her because I love her. And then, you know, I started thinking about it and I'm like, fuck it, Nancy Allen. I can't not give it to Nancy Allen.
Yeah. It's just
undeniable.
In the toughest category of best actresses that we've had since we've started the show, Nancy Allen wins hands down.
And in fact, my favorite moment with Nancy Allen is her interrogation, not by Michael Caine, but her interrogation by Dennis Franz.
Yes,
that thing where he's like, you know, so where were you? And she's like, well, I was at a friend's house. Oh, yeah, where was this friend? Oh, yeah, where? And like, he knows she's a hooker.
Yeah.
And,
oh, Miss Blake.
And
am I too crude for you?
Yeah. And I love the moment where she realizes he knows.
Yeah.
And so she immediately lights up a cigarette and it's like,
she drops the act. Yeah.
She drops her act immediately. And she's still like compelling and sweet and like, it's just undeniable. Nancy Allen is just Nancy Allen. And you can feel that the director is in love with her as well.
Yeah.
And like that love is on screen. So yeah, it's Nancy Allen, Michael Caine.
Okay. So now moving on to Best Supporting Actor and Best Supporting Actress.
I mean, for me, you know, it's between Keith Gordon and Rene Auberjonois. And Auberjonois, I'm in love with the performance because I forgot and I was so charmed by him and he was so fun and funny and admittedly has to kind of come in and be like a mix of comic relief. I just hadn't seen him be that like electric in a movie and going for it.
But there's actually more than the other red herring characters. There is genuine nuance to his character that maybe isn't there for the other one.
Yeah, but every time you see him and Brad Dourif is also amazing.
Brad Dourif he's always great.
Big boys.
Brad Dourif, who is always great.
Big boys.
In one of the best roles I've ever seen him in.
It's one of my favorite. This is actually that's my favorite Brad Dourif. That and Sonny Boy are my two favorite Brad Dourif performances.
I mean,
Crewman Suter in Star Trek Voyager.
Blue Velvet. I mean, how do you
Blue Velvet, yeah.
How do you not love...
I would actually give Brad Dourif best line reading of the whole thing, where he goes, "What are you doing with this knife? Cuddle a rope and shit."
Yeah. Cut rope and shit. That's a great line to give a cop if they ever ask you why you have a knife. It's legal. It's legal. Yeah, I know it's legal. Why do you have it?
I mean, for me, the category would be Brad Dourif, Rene Auberjonois, Alfonso de Noble.
Oh yeah,
he's unforgettable. Talk about a guy coming into a movie.
Yeah,
he's your walk-in Pulp Fiction. The guy that comes in and does a couple scenes, and you're like, I will never forget that.
And we're still talking. Don't forget Dennis Franz.
And Dennis Franz.
Okay, so who is your choice?
It's got to be Keith Gordon.
Okay,
because Keith Gordon, as Roger said, of the entry point and the one you relate to. And the likability, and he's just
the most innovative character. He is the most ingenious.
Because there's the Keith Gordon character of the taxidermist in Happy Birthday to Me.
Yeah.
Like that's the Canadian Keith Gordon. So, but you can see when you don't actually have Keith Gordon. Is it Jack Blum, I believe? Spaz from Meatballs.
That was good.
It's the Canadian Keith Gordon. So Canadian Keith Gordon, but you could see where the movie sort of stops when you don't have the Keith Gordon. When you have Gordon Keith or whoever his name is. It's like Keith David. There should have been a Gordon Keith, the David Keith David rivalry. But Keith Gordon's performance, I just love him. It was me. It was all of us.
And I do think that Keith Gordon is less than in Christine. I don't think he's as good as he could have been in Christine. He functions, but he's not the way he is in this.
No.
He's perfect in this.
Well, I don't buy him as much in Christine because, like, when he becomes like evil or whatever, I don't buy his transition to evil.
I don't buy his dork, and I don't buy his cool guy.
Yeah, his cool guy. But like in Dress to Kill, however, he's the most true character to himself in the because he is completely 100% committed. He's not like in any way trying to sleep with Nancy Allen. He is.
Well, he wants to find out the murderer of his mom.
He
He's got like
relentless in that he's going to find out who the murderer is.
But you brought up a really interesting thing when we were watching the movie that I thought was really sweet. Actually, you were talking about how when he's outside the Dennis Franz's office, and he's interviewing the psychiatrist, and then when all of a sudden, he pulls out his little sticker thing that he can stick on the wall, and then he's got the thing he's got a
little earpiece
in there, and then he can record what's being said and hear what's being said. And you were just saying, he goes, man, when that character started doing that the first time I watched the movie, I go, wow, this character's so cool. Yeah, you just started thinking, wow, I want to have all that shit. That's cool.
Well, he's doing what you want to do.
He's taking over the movie.
He's not being stupid. He's not falling down when he's chased. He's not doing anything like that. In fact, he's
the hero.
He's the hero of the movie. He's rising to the occasion. He's going to find the killer. He doesn't care who stops him. Hey, everybody treats him like he's a kid. Everybody kind of dismisses him. But this one, he's a genius. Two, he's literally the one who calculates chronological reckoning as the 1600s term of what a computer is. And he's
but even in his taking the photos of the patients coming out of Dr. Elliott's office, completely.
And then you told me something that I never knew, which even deepened the relationship between Peter and De Palma.
De Palma thought that his father was having an affair with his mother, and he wanted to catch his father in the act.
Yes.
So he could give the information to his mother so she could divorce him. And so the whole thing that Keith Gordon does with his moped and his little camera, taking a shot, leaving, his father was a doctor, leaving his father's office. De Palma did that to his own dad.
Wow. He actually did it.
Yeah, he actually did it.
And so that character
that's actually taken from life.
Wow, that's amazing.
So I actually, in my awards, and I don't mean to jump in really quick, but in my awards, I was like, look, I'm going to give it to Dennis Franz just because I love him in this movie, probably. And then I was like, well, maybe I can give Best Character to Keith Gordon as opposed to Best Actor, because he's my favorite character. He's my entry. He's everything to me in this movie.
But something that we didn't talk about when we talked about the movie. Okay, not only is he the Brian De Palma character of the piece, it's also interesting that De Palma cast a young boy to represent him. But the thing about the next movie is Blowout, where Jack Terry, John Travolta's character, is basically a very troubled Keith Gordon, Peter Miller, having grown up. There's a symbiotic connection.
That continuity to the characters.
That John Travolta is supposed to be the grown-up character who's suffered all this trauma, and now he's this kind of bitter, disillusioned guy.
Yeah.
But both movies feature the character dealing with their technological apparatus to solve the mysteries and the crime, and spend 6-minute sequences.
This was a tough
just
category.
show them off.
Yeah. This was a tough. I mean, even the priest in Alice, Sweet Alice was amazing.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what, with supporting actress, and it's weird because she would be billed as lead actress. You'd have to say Angie Dickinson.
Oh, I think Angie Dickinson is
it's not even,
for sure.
I mean, it's not even.
Okay, so you picked Keith Gordon,
Keith
right?
Gordon and Angie Dickinson.
Keith Gordon. Okay, how about you?
I'm actually, for Best Supporting Actress, going to go with the aunt in Alice, Sweet Alice.
Oh, wow, okay.
I loved her performance in the hospital scene. I think her screaming and falling down the stairs was really funny. It reinvigorated the movie for me.
Yeah, Jane Lowry.
I just really enjoyed her performance, and also how her character completely flips in that scene. Best Supporting Actor, I have to give it to Brad Dourif. Brad Dourif, I love you.
Yep.
Brad Dourif, if you're listening out there, you have a fan in me, a lifelong fan. Yeah. You're one of my favorite actors, and I'm so happy that I can give you my pick for Best Supporting Actor.
Well, look, supporting actress is easy. That's Angie Dickinson. All right. Yeah. I mean, there's almost as if no competition.
It's actually brave for her to come into this movie, to be killed in the first, part of the movie.
She loved the movie. She thinks that along with Rio Bravo, it's her best movie.
Yeah. Well, I'd agree with her. I like Point Blank, but not her in Point Blank as much as this.
Okay. Best supporting. Look, I I'm going to go against. I acknowledge everything you guys said about Keith Gordon, and
it's a tough category.
And maybe
it's a tough category.
And maybe it should be the one I choose, and maybe it's the one deep down that I think is correct. But I'm going to pick Rene
Auberginois.
Yeah. I think
Big Boys.
Yeah,
no,
he's playing with the big boys now. Big Boys.
No, he was my original.
It's the most detailed character. It's the most detailed character of I think of the group in its own way. Okay, director.
Okay, it's Brian De Palma.
Yeah, I mean the second close it would be Alfred Sole, but it's De Palma.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
De Palma.
I'm giving it to Kirshner. I think he has a wonderful, eclectic collection. I mean, De Palma, Split Doctor, blah, blah, blah. But I think Kirshner has an amazing, eclectic cast. I think every single character that we've talked about that's in that movie gives great performances. I think that his camera work is amazing. So I think that
Victor Kemper,
he's going to get Best Director for me this time.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely De Palma, because I think I can make a case that Dressed to Kill is one of the best directed movies ever made. I mean, it's a directed movie.
Yeah, I mean, we all were gobsmacked by the end of it. All of us having seen it many times before.
The other movie brat that Brian De Palma is like symbiotically connected to is Martin Scorsese, when they were both friends. And they're the ones that, of the movie brats, went to the rougher material, for sure. And they kind of had a friendship, but they also had a rivalry a little bit, where they wanted to top the other one. And Brian De Palma told me a very great story once when I hung out with him. And he's talking about he's doing Blowout. He's got a big star in John Travolta. He's got a big budget because of Travolta's participation. So he has all the time and all the money he needs to make his little thriller. So he's really able to do every big set piece he's ever wanted to do. It's all right there. And he goes, I think I'm doing a pretty fucking great job. I'm really, really happy with myself. And then during the weekend, Raging Bull comes out. So I go see it on my day off. On Sunday. And I think I'm making a really fucking great movie. Like, this is the one. This is the one. And I sit down in the movie theater, and then those opening credits start. And that opera music starts playing. It's just the black and white slow motion shot of Jake LaMotta just kind of bouncing around in the ring as the credits play. And it's just so beautiful and so perfect. And I sit there and I looked at the screen and I just go, there's always Scorsese. No matter what you do, there's always Scorsese. He's always there and he's always being brilliant. There's always Scorsese.
It's like the rantings of a homicidal maniac, like alone in a theater, like in a dark theater, rocking back and forth.
Well, that'll be his explanation at the end of his killing spree.
Yeah, the backstory for his Giallo.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the ranting of an artist who conconsiders himself one of the greatest, but he's in he's in competition with another great artist. Or another way to say it is Bing Crosby talking about Frank Sinatra, saying Frank Sinatra is the voice of a generation. Unfortunately, it was my generation. Using, again, the correlation between Scorsese and De Palma. If Carrie is his Taxi Driver, then yes, Dressed to Kill is his Raging Bull.
Do we all agree that Dressed to Kill is Best Picture?
I think Carrie is better.
I think
for sure. I'll be surprised if anybody picks anything else. Gala.
No, because you know what?
You're fudging it with Irv Kirshner.
No,
I would pick Happy Birthday to Me to be like difficult, but it's better. I mean, Dressed to Kill, it's not even close.
Yeah, because one person has all the tools that a studio is offering him and like a big budget and big stars. The other one is like working with nothing.
But it's also like for kitsch value, it's just fun. It's it's like junk food.
Okay, but here's another one. Best screenplay. Well, we got 4 very interesting screenplays here. All 4 of these screenplays are very interesting, and they all, even though some of them work on a camp level, they actually are effective on a camp level. Mm-hmm. So, look, I still pick Dress to Kill best screenplay.
Well, having read the screenplay for this, I'm going to go with Brian De Palma as screenplay as well.
But having said that, though, I would put the Alice Sweet Alice screenplay would be a definitive number 2.
Yeah, absolutely. In a second,
like a strong number 2, a down there number 2, but a strong number 2 for director as well.
Yeah, no, the same. I felt the same. I mean, it's undeniable. Also, we think of De Palma, I think of Scarface, or I think of, his incredible visual style. But like you said, he just doesn't get that respect as a great screenwriter. Mm-hmm. And this is the one where it's a written.
This is the one. This is the
auteur piece in every way.
Honestly, I was going to give it to Carpenter and Goodman for Eyes of Laura Mars. And then Eli rewrote the ending of that. And I liked Eli's ending better.
You can give it to all 3 of us.
Yeah, but I think you came up with it mostly, so I'm kind of like
I'm choosing Eli Roth's rewrite.
If I could,
his remake. Yeah, when Eli does the remake,
that'll be like my best screenplay of the week. But
which, by the way, this really would be a good remake with the way media is today, and with the idea of all these kind of nested perspectives and everything.
I'm gonna go for it with De Palma because I can't get over how good Eli's rewrite of the end is.
Okay, I already said my favorite bad performance, which is the mother in Happy Birthday to Me, but Tommy Lee Jones would be second for best bad performance. Tommy Lee Jones is a strong number 2 in that. He can't beat the mom in Happy Birthday to Me. Nobody can.
I'd say his performance is really good until that one rather clumsy exposition scene where he's revealing his insanity.
No, but he's wonderfully bad. It's deliciously bad, as Gala would say.
Delicious. Question, guys. Who's the best villain of the week?
No, I was going to ask that. Good for you. I was going to say, we're talking about Giallos. Who's the best killer?
Well, in order to say the best killer, I mean...
Yeah, I know where you're
I don't want to
from.
say it, but I would say the killer from Alice Sweet Alice.
Yeah, that's my pick also, actually.
Yeah.
It's pretty damn good killer.
It's so good that we're not going to tell you who it is.
Yeah. Well, Bobby's my favorite De Palma killer. I think that there was more continuity to the performance of Bobby. If it wasn't split up between 3 different performers playing it, I would choose Bobby. But because it's so obvious to me the way it's split up, and yet it still nevertheless works, it stops Bobby from completely being the full character.
Maybe doesn't that enhance the character? Wasn't that used as a device to create this kind of schizophrenic?
Yeah, because we're talking about best villain.
We're not really talking about best actor. We're talking about best villain. And so for them to use all this kind of panopticon of this kaleidoscope of characters,
but De Palma's done this.
Actors
De Palma's done this before in the past, and I think there is a thing about an actor playing a killer, and then and it gets wrapped up in the performance that makes it. I think the only reason that the killer in Alice Sweet Alice can eat an apple off of Bobby's head is because one character is playing it and they commit to it so absolutely positively much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reveal is a good surprise. Mm-hmm. Sort of fooled by that.
Like, I didn't see Alice Sweet Alice or Happy Birthday to Me on their initial release. Mm-hmm. I did see Dress to Kill and Eyes of Laura Mars on initial release. And I can tell you that Bobby scared the fucking bejesus out of me. Mm-hmm. I was terrified watching that movie. And when Bobby jumps out of the shoes and then out of a mirror, I'm tweaking in the theater.
So then Bobby is your favorite killer.
I got to go with Bobby. It just scared the hell out of me.
Okay, is that the end of our show?
Yes, actually.
I want to just say best cinematography, Victor Kemper.
Okay.
Victor Kemper.
Oh,
I mean,
no.
You're going to go with Alice Sweet Alice?
No, I'm going to go with Ralph D. Bode for Dress to Kill.
I would go Ralph D. Bode as well.
He also did my favorite John Hughes movie, Uncle Buck.
Well, you're right.
Yeah.
I would go with Ralph D. Bode as well.
I wonder what else Ralph D. Bode made in 1979. Because Victor Kemper shot 4 fucking great movies in
well, be a scumbag and look it up on IMDb, you millennial fuck.
Well, I can tell you what those... Listen, what about Michael Kahn, best editing for Eyes of Laura Mars?
I agree with that.
I'd give it to Jerry Greenberg for Dress to Kill. Yeah. In fact, not only that, De Palma's first movie away from Paul Hirsch for like 10 years. And Jerry Greenberg does a great job.
Okay, I'm desperate to give Eyes of Laura Mars some tech credit, so let's go with Best Production Design with Gene Callahan.
Or Best Original...
I'd give that to Alice Sweet Alice.
Alice Sweet Alice. Best Original
Yeah, you're
Song.
right. Actually, you're right. Alice Sweet Alice with its period depiction and period design.
We gave Renee
version.
But what about
tech credits?
You're
Tech
gonna
credits.
make
The
Quentin
spectacular.
sing if you say that.
Or you could say Best Original Song from Eyes of Laura Mars, sung by Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, that's the only version I want to listen to.
Best
I would say
disco, best soundtrack.
Best music supervisor. All right.
best
Eyes of
needle
Laura
drops.
Mars, for sure. For the Michael Ziegler, hey, that's Salt Jet. Okay, everybody, I think that does it for our American Giallo episode, our very first theme episode, and I think it worked out very well. We want to thank our customer.
Thank you, Eli.
Thanks,
Eli
Eli.
Roth.
Grazie.
And I want to thank Gala.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.
And my co-host, Roger Roberts Avery.
Thank you. Be seeing you.
Bye-bye.
Need 'em now. I don't need 'em now. Who wants presents with pretty bows? Who likes party clothes?
The Video Archives podcast is hosted by Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avery and produced by Josh Richmond and Gala Avery. Our engineer is Devin Torrey Bryant, and our executive producers are Colin Anderson and Natalie Muallim. We now have Video Archives merch. Go to podswag.com to see everything we have in stock. Find out more about the show by heading to videoarchivespodcast.com. You can also find us on Twitter at Video Archives and on Instagram at Video Archives Pod. Have you ever wanted to hear Mick Garris discuss the differences between original source material and the movies they become? Or Joe Russo's favorite gateways into horror? What about author Max Brooks and how he thinks that Minecraft will literally save humanity? Join me, reporter on the beat Gala Avery, as I get to the bottom of these topics on my new show, The Gala Show. In this weekly podcast, guests from Los Angeles and beyond have 30 minutes on the clock to bring whatever topic they want to the mic. So, tune in every Thursday for a new guest with an entirely new topic. The first episode drops October 26th, available wherever you get your podcasts.